next hour or so. That's before my colleague Carl Deffenbaugh picks up with you at 1:30. Okay. We have a very eclectic show today. That's how I would probably describe it. We're going to check in with a couple of live events that are happening not only here in Milwaukee, but also down in Chicago as well. We're tracking a couple of press conferences, one of them that is happening with the mayor of Chicago in regards to the immigration crackdown happening there. We're also going to check in as well with a Milwaukee County what we believe to be a budget hearing. So we're going to check in with that and see what's going on there. Then I have two really interesting interviews that I cannot wait to share with you. The first one is with a bat conservation expert from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. So she is going to come on and talk to us about International Bat Week. Yeah, it's kind of perfect leading up to Halloween. In particular, she's going to focus her interview on bats here in Wisconsin. We have, you might be surprised to learn, a lot of different types of bats that live here in our state. And we're going to talk to her about, kind of how important they are to the Badger State, and also what we can do as Wisconsinites to help them continue to live here and grow safely. So really looking forward to that. Also, we have a dear friend of mine coming up at 1 o'clock. Josh Mauer, Brewers broadcaster, is going to be here to kind of do a wrap up on the season. Obviously, the World Series starts tonight right here on Fox 6. You can watch it with us. It's Toronto versus LA. So a big matchup there. I know it's not exactly the two teams that we wanted to see in the World Series. We were really hoping that the Brewers were going to beat the Dodgers. We're going to talk to Josh about that. Why was that such a rough series for Milwaukee, especially when we performed so well against the same team during the regular season? So lots to get to. Right now, though, I'm going to send it on down to the Milwaukee County budget hearing. Let's listen in now and see what's going on there together.
And many of these homes were built like in the early 1900s, but they're still well maintained, lending to the quaintancy of the neighborhood. And about 74% of the residents in the Cooper Park district neighborhood have a median home valuation around $230,000 to $270,000. And according to our recent U.S. Census data, the neighborhood makeup is 71.7% white, Black or African American, 12.6%, Hispanic or Latino is 8.2%, Asian, 0.3%, and Native American, 0.3%, and other mixed races of 6.9%. So as far as diversity is concerned, it's a 41 out of 100, but nevertheless, it is diverse. Cooper Park sits on 8.4 acres of land on our near west side. It's close to Wauwatosa. It is home to a playground, a picnic area, a wading pool, pavilion, and 2 baseball fields. There is an active Friends of Cooper Park group, and they engage the neighbors, and they're dedicated to gathering the neighborhood to enhance and enjoy the park. We participated in park cleanups on an annual basis, so we do have interest in helping to maintain the park. Again, the Cooper Park residents have been waiting a long time for us to address this issue of resurfacing this surface lot that is damaged. I have provided a few photos of what some of the hot spots on that lot are. I call them wading pools. One of them is about 2 to 3 inch deep. They're deep enough that ducks actually wade in those potholes, in the holes in that lot. The pavilion there, is very active with being host to neighborhood events, family reunions, community meetings. I hold a couple of town halls there each year. And it's also a polling location. Last year, I made a very intentional effort to go and monitor events at the park. In particularly, during the summer months when there are picnics and other gatherings going on. And I happened to be there on one Saturday afternoon, and there was this little dude about 3 or 4 years old. He's running across this lot, and I'm thinking, oh boy. And he has this huge inflatable ball in front of him. And as I go, oh boy, he takes a tumble in one of these holes. And I'm thinking, dear God, don't let him hit his head. And he did not, thanks to this ball he was holding that broke his fall. I was very thankful to him, to having that ball, and I went over and talked with he and his mom, and they were okay, things were good. But then fast forward to November when there's an election. Many folks that utilize this park are our older, seasoned adults, and they have devices and apparatus to help them navigate the landscape. And as this one elder was getting out of her vehicle, going towards the polling location, she tripped. Her leg of her walker got stuck in one of these holes. You couldn't see it because there was stuff on top of it. And I'm thinking, how long must we wait to repair something that's clearly a problem for ADA? Do we wait until something untowards happen before we act? I've been on this board for, I think, 6, 7 years now, and in that time frame, each year I watch Cooper.
Okay. You are just listening live there to the Milwaukee County Finance Committee meeting. A big reason why Fox 6 wanted to be inside of this meeting was because we've been following a story, as you know, on what is going on with bus fare evasion on MCTS buses. And what our investigator, Brian Polson, has found that with the way things are going so far this year in 2025, Milwaukee County is on pace to have 8 million riders get on for free this year. Let that sink in. 8 million riders. So the county is proposing a pilot program that would basically put uniformed security guards on buses to help reduce fare evasion, to help with enforcement, to get people to start paying for their rides. His investigation also found that for every 2 paying riders who get on an MCTS bus, 1 gets on for free. So these numbers here are really significant. Now, this $620,000 program would be funded by reallocating money from a camera replacement project at the county jail. That's where this money would come from to fund these staff security guard members. So we just want to bring to light here just how kind of serious this issue is in terms of fare evasion, getting people to pay to get on the bus. As we have seen, MCTS is really hurting right now when it comes to their finances, so much so that they've had to reduce routes, which impacts a lot of folks, a lot of passengers, even paying passengers who take the bus. So that was a live look there inside of the Milwaukee County Budget Committee meeting. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go up to Minneapolis, if this is possible. We're going to go to Minneapolis because there's a protest going on there. It's in response to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She's set to visit Minneapolis later on today. She's holding a news conference there regarding what else? Immigration enforcement in the city. This comes as immigrant rights activists, of course, are planning protests in Minneapolis. So according to the media advisory, Noem will discuss U.S. immigration and customs enforcement operations and also provide an update on the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts in the region. Her office's announcement to local media is coming after a, quote, targeted surge in enforcement by immigration officials and the FBI. It's an operation that's being called Operation Twin Shield that actually took place in the Twin Cities last month, so back in September. This visit, we should mention, as far as we know, is not tied to any specific incident, but of course it has drawn attention from local officials and local activists. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a live look here at this presser in Minneapolis. Bear with us, the camera's kind of moving around a little bit, but it looks like they've got a steady shot now. Let's take a listen in. Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought that we had audio for this. I'm so sorry. It seems like we don't. Let me try to iron out here this technical difficulty. Okay, I'm going to take a quick commercial break here, and we will come back while I get this audio issue ironed out. Thank you for watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Friday, October 24th at 12:41 p.m.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
12:45 on your Friday. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. My name is Nicola Junowitz. Now I'm going to take you to a really special event that's being hosted by the Wisconsin Historical Society in Milwaukee. Basically, today they are marking the official installation of a historical marker honoring the Chinese laundry era in Milwaukee and to celebrate the history of both of these organizations. This period, which took place between the late 1800s and the mid-1900s, was a time when Chinese immigrants faced discrimination and limited job opportunities when they came to America, yet they found massive entrepreneurial success by operating laundries all throughout the city. So really kind of a unique program here today. It looks like now they're watching some sort of educational video. Let's take a listen in, shall we?
We had a garage here, we had a backyard here, we had a big tree here, and then we played out here. This was our backyard. One time my brother knocked on one of the doors, and the priest came out and gave him a picture of Jesus. No, he is more religious than I am, though.
As of, say, 1930, the number of Chinese laundries grew to 58. So there are lots of Chinese laundries throughout the Milwaukee area. The reason why I mentioned those is because the one on 12th and Vliet and the one on Capitol appear in an article by Jacqueline Mitchell in 1984 that said these are the last two Chinese laundries in Milwaukee.
Not far from where we live, Frank Zeidler and his family, the former mayor of Milwaukee and socialist mayor for many years. So he was a regular at our laundry, and he would come in, and it was funny because we would always mark out the clothing that everyone would bring in. And I always thought my father said his name was...
I want to mention here, this historical marker is going to be installed at the YWCA of Southeast Wisconsin building, which is located on North King Drive. It was previously home to the Fred Moy Laundry that was one of the dozens of Chinese-owned laundries that operated between the 1940s and the 1970s. So this YWCA, building has a lot of significance to this community. You can still see the original brick inside the building, which is kind of neat. So the organization we know that applied for the historical marker from the Wisconsin Historical Society was the Organization of Chinese Americans Wisconsin chapter. Okay, just wanted to add that little nugget there. Let's go back in.
This car moving along the highway now. California with me, almost 2,000 miles from my 1,000 miles from the office for me, 2,000 miles from my sweet home Milwaukee. Don't mind Milwaukee. Ooh, it's a dream, sweet and touch the sky. There's rain.
Okay, you are listening into a very special program here that's being hosted by the Wisconsin Historical Society, where they are putting up a marker to honor the Chinese laundry era in Milwaukee. This marker, this historical marker, is going to be installed at one of the original Chinese laundries. This is from the 1960s here. It's the Fred Moy Laundry Building. It's located on North King Drive. Mr. Moy and his family worked in this building. They were part of our laundry era. This was a time when many Chinese immigrants worked in and owned laundries amid violent discrimination, really from all sides. So this story here that they're telling today is really one of perseverance and, of course, dedication to our community. and of course, entrepreneurial spirit as well. We can't forget that. Okay, if you are interested in this story, which I'm sure many of you are because it is fascinating, you can learn more by watching our evening newscast tonight. Our photojournalist is here getting video and interviews, and it'll be presented for you later on tonight. Okay, now I want to head to an interview that I told you about. I kind of teased it earlier on here, where we were talking about, let me pop out of this really quick. Okay, forgive me, I'm getting my bearings here. Okay. It's International Bat Week. We talked about this if you joined us on Real Milwaukee. Basically, there's a whole culture surrounding bats, not only internationally, but especially here in Wisconsin. You might be surprised to learn that we actually have a lot of different varieties of bats that live here. They're a really important part of our state, and it's important that we as a community take care of them. So, you know, who better to talk about this with than with Jennifer Riddell. She is a DNR conservation biologist. I don't know, Jen, if I can get you in here. Yes, okay. Hi, Jen, can you hear me?
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, but it would probably help if I got your mic up. Thank you so much for joining us once again to talk about International Bat Week. I enjoyed our conversation, Jennifer, so much on Real Milwaukee that I was like, I've got to have her on the live desk today because bats are fascinating creatures. And I know both Carl and I learned so much from our interview. So thank you for coming back on again. First and foremost, let's talk about bats in Wisconsin and just how many different kinds there are, because I feel like that is something that is not commonly known to Wisconsinites.
Right, and I'll take it actually one step back before I get to Wisconsin, because I think there's something that people don't know about bats around the world, and that is that bats make up 20% of the mammal diversity on the planet. So 1 out of every 5 mammal species is a bat on Earth. And they are only outnumbered by rodents. And, you know, so that in and of itself is fascinating. In North America, we have about 50 species, 47 species of bats. And then in Wisconsin, we have 8 different kinds, or 8 different species of bats. And of those 8, there are 2 that are really common, and that's the little brown bat and the big brown bat. And I know we call them big, but they're actually both really small. All of our bats could fit across, you know, kind of the palm of an adult's hand.
When they're folded up, right?
Small. Yeah. Yep, with the wings folded up, small bodies.
That's so neat. Now I have to ask you, for somebody who hasn't studied them as closely as maybe you have, would they really notice a difference or be able to?
You know, they would for about half of those species. So half of the species are migratory, and we call them the tree bats. And it's because they are normally roosting in the foliage or on the bark or under the bark of trees in the summertime, and they're usually solitary. And they are more colorful. So we have an eastern red bat that, you know, like the name implies, looks fairly reddish in color. We have a hoary bat, and just like the name implies, the word hoary implying like a frosted tip. So they have like this white frosted tipped fur, and they're fairly distinctive for that reason. And then the silver-haired bat is, you guessed it, sort of a silver gray color, and we usually find them roosting on the bark of trees where they blend in. We also have an evening bat, and that is a smallish brown bat. But then the other 4 species are hibernators, and that includes the little brown and big brown, which, as the name implies, are just sort of brown everywhere, and the size is quite similar. So unless you're a bat biologist, you might, you know, not know which one you're looking at. And then we have 2 different hibernators, the tricolored bat and the northern long-eared bat. And both of those are also more brown in appearance. And so they, you know, really blend in with their surroundings, but they're all very small, and those hibernators all look, you know, fairly similar to the average person.
So I'm so sorry, Jen. So do not all bats hibernate?
No, and that's the cool thing is, you know, when we think about bats, you know, we could have this conversation about birds. And if I just said birds worldwide, everybody automatically is thinking of like all the diversity of the ways that birds survive and their different diets in different climates. And it's the same with bats. They're very adapted to wherever they're at. And in Wisconsin, they're all insectivorous, and they have to do something to survive the winter when there's no insects available. So yeah, half hibernate. They sort of stay here and head underground. But half of them leave the state and presumably head south, or at least south-ish, somewhere where the climate's a little bit warmer, and they can still use torpor, so they still kind of like conserve energy by keeping their body cool over the course of winter, but they may be out foraging throughout the winter months in a southern climate.
So I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously we do have some harsh winters here, which are not great for animals that exclusively eat insects. Why do we have such a robust bat population here in Wisconsin? Where did all this start?
Well, people ask this question once in a while, and I think, number one, we do have seasons, and so we've got chances for animals, that are adapted to seasonal survival, to capitalize on the abundance of summer, but also conserve energy in the winter. And in Wisconsin, we do a great job taking care of our natural resources. We have abundant forests and water sources, and we know that bats are highly associated with water because they not only want to roost pretty close to water, usually within a quarter mile. If it's a little brown bat, we'll find an occupied bat house or someone's barn full of bats within a quarter mile of a lake or a river. And that's because the first thing they're going to do in the evening when they wake up is head to that water body and get a drink. And they drink on the wing, they skim the surface of the water, and then they stay and forage because, of course, lots of water means lots of insects near those water bodies. So that's part of the story. But then the other part of the story, and the more fascinating part, is that Wisconsin has an industrial, a mining heritage, and bats and hibernating bats are where our mining heritage meets our natural heritage. We've got a miner on our state flag, and our Badger State is full of holes made by miners. Some are big, some are small, but bats are incredibly well adapted to finding and occupying human-made structures. And so we have this abundance of mines. And many of the larger ones are very complex, and they offer bats a wide variety of environmental conditions. So temperature, humidity, airflow, all these different passageways are slightly different. And bats can go in and not only, escape disturbance by hanging out in the dark in a place where the temperature is pretty buffered, but they can find just the right place to hibernate. And that has made them very successful, and so more bats, we think, have entered those sites over time, and bats have been able to survive the winters in those sites because of their complexity.
That's so interesting. They really are such interesting creatures. I know we talked about this earlier. A lot of people just sort of naturally assume that they're a nuisance, but really they're not interested in biting humans. I mean, I think people think of bats. I mean, there's a reason we talk about bats on Halloween, right? Like, people think of them as being scary animals, but they're really not scary at all.
And, I always think bats are very memorable because they are one of those animals that we don't encounter on a regular basis. Even a spider or maybe even a snake, might surprise us, and those can be misunderstood, but we tend to see spiders a lot. People that see bats tend to have a bat story, like you did this morning with your bat on the window screen.
Dimitri, yeah.
And so, yeah.
My
Yeah, so
roommate.
we like to, try to interpret those stories when we do hear them. But yeah, bats are just doing their own thing, trying to hide from predators during the daytime. They need to sleep, and they're dark in color because they're trying to blend in with those dark shadows.
Yes, so interesting. And it all makes so much sense, even when you were explaining this morning why they hang upside down, or sleep upside down, excuse me, and they hang there. It all just makes sense. It's really kind of neat. So Jennifer, for people who are kind of like me and Carl, and they really find bat history, bat culture, bats in general really interesting, this is kind of the week for us, right? Because it's International Bat Week. What events is the DNR hosting to spread the word about these fascinating mammals?
Right. Well, statewide, all month long, actually, we celebrate Bat Week. We get ready at the beginning of October,
I love
and
that.
lots of people are thinking about bats, in the lead up to Halloween. So there are a number of state parks that have been hosting some events and will continue to. The ones near the Milwaukee area include Richard Bong State Recreation Area, actually not a state park, and they've got an event happening tonight. Also, Havenwood State Forest is hosting a bat hike on Thursday night coming up next week. there's a couple of other partners, and we certainly have a lot of those out there helping do bat outreach and bat programming, not just during Bat Week, but every time of the year. And that includes Schlitz Audubon Nature Center. They've got a bat program coming up next week, Wednesday. The Kenosha Public Library will have a bat talk next Monday night. And branching further afield, Lake Mills Community Center's got something going on next Thursday night. That's one of our bat biologists, my colleague Paul White, will be speaking there. And then heading out further afield across the state, we've got other events happening. But I do want to give a shout out to these wonderful volunteers we have that are called Wisconsin Bat Ambassadors. And they, along with our many citizen science volunteers, are really instrumental in creating that bat enthusiasm and knowledge scattered all across the state. And so these are people that are either going out and conducting outreach, or going and talking to a scout group or a school or a library when those requests for programs come in. But then we have people out there, like you, that may have a bat roosting, or hopefully a few bats roosting, and they count the bats for us and contribute to the data that we need collected on how our population is doing. So we've got lots of citizen scientists that are counting bats, or going out and recording bat echolocation calls, and contributing huge amounts of data over the past 15 years to our program.
It's like a bat census, if you will.
Exactly.
Jennifer Waddell from the Wisconsin DNR, thank you so much for joining us. We've got much more information on our website. I'm sure you have it as well on International Bat Week. Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Another interesting conversation with the Wisconsin DNR on International Bat Week. I feel like I could chew her ear off. I just think that they're such fascinating creatures, and they live among us, which is really kind of neat. So, okay. Well, without further ado, we are going to take a short commercial break here, and then I will see you on the other side of it, and we are going to talk to Brewers broadcaster Josh Mauer, coming off of a really incredible season. We're going to talk to him all about his experiences traveling with the team, even going into the postseason, and kind of what life is like even now that we're in the postseason and things are a little quieter over there at American Family Field. Okay, let's.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
All right, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk, everybody. My name is Nicola Junowitz. Thank you so much for joining us. It is Friday, October 24th at 1:06 p.m. And now we are doing an interview that I'm really excited about. We're talking to Josh Mauer, Brewers broadcaster, and I'm just going to call you an all-around baseball expert because that is what you are at this point. Josh has been working in baseball now for many years before coming to Milwaukee. His story is super interesting, and this season has been super interesting. So Josh Mauer, welcome to you. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. It's so good to be here. I love being a baseball expert. I'll take that any day.
I think you've earned that title after all the work you've done. So for folks at home who are watching, I think your story is really interesting. It's not totally unlike, quite frankly, how TV people do things, or even baseball players themselves. You started kind of in the minor leagues and worked your way up. So tell folks at home kind of how you got to Milwaukee.
I do think it's very similar to the route that a lot of the players take when they're coming up and trying to make the major leagues. They have to start at the bottom. Most of them do. And so you start at the lowest levels of the minor leagues, which is what I did. And for almost 2 decades, I worked from independent baseball, single A baseball, which is the lowest level, double A, triple A. And then I finally got my shot when I got hired by the Brewers before the 2022 season. So I always thought that that gave me a nice little advantage because I've seen truly every level of professional baseball that you can experience before I ever got to do the major league thing full time. And I think that kind of gave me a nice perspective on the sport, on the way things work. I can understand the players' journeys that they've gone through to be able to get to the point where they're at when they make the Brewers. So yeah, I've moved all over the country and worked in a lot of different smaller towns. And you're right, it's also similar to the way that television works. Broadcast television, you also have to work your way up from the lower markets to the mid markets to the high markets.
Yeah.
It's not dissimilar from what we do as play-by-play broadcasters in baseball. And that was my journey to get here. And I just finished my 4th season calling games for the Brewers.
Congratulations. Yeah. It is so neat. I think, though, too, we've talked about this. You appreciate it more, right? Like the more you have to work for something, it's usually not easy, but usually that's where the meaning comes in, right? It's more worth it. And I can imagine that's the case for you. I want to hear, if we can, because obviously this was a really special season. I think bittersweet, I can imagine, is probably not the best word, but with Bob Uecker, I know you had your first meeting with Bob was during your interview, right? During that process. And for you, it was like you're meeting your icon.
He was, one of one. And we use that term, I think, probably a little too liberally these days, calling somebody one of one. But Bob was that. There's no overstating how unique and special that he was. And I got to meet Bob. Bob was very integral in me coming here. And after getting his stamp of approval and getting hired, I got to work in the same booth as he. For my first 3 seasons calling games for the Brewers, Bob was still working up until the very end. And sharing a broadcast booth with him, it was one of the most amazing experiences and joys of my life. The things that I learned, experienced, obviously it goes without saying how great of an entertainer that Bob was. He was a phenomenal teammate. To be involved with him in his broadcast booth, and it was his broadcast booth, for over 50 years, Bob was the Brewers radio network. But he welcomed me, as he has all of his broadcast partners, as like a family member. So to be in that very small, unique, exclusive clique was something that I'll never forget. And it was such a great way to be indoctrinated into the Brewers, because you could learn things through Bob's lens. And that was just so valuable for me, getting used to things out here where I'd never lived, never worked. He taught me so much about the game and about just the area and the organization, the people. It was so perfect for me to be able to have that experience.
I think too, Josh, there's certain people who you meet in your career where when you're having a tough day or you're kind of faced with a challenging situation, you kind of think like, okay, well, what would this person do? Would you say that for you, that's got to be Ueck?
Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day. We colleagues of mine at different teams, we all talk about trade secrets and how things are done. How did other people call certain events? And we talked about I was speaking with a colleague about the Game 7 home run that the Blue Jays hit to send them to the World Series on Monday night, and what we thought of the broadcast calls, because that's what we do. We're the broadcasters.
You're
So
gonna
we don't think
critique,
about
yeah.
the home run. We think about how are they broadcasted.
You
And
can't turn it off, yeah.
Yeah, you can't turn it off. So we listened to, he and I had listened to different various calls of it. There was the Blue Jays call, there was the Mariners call, there was the National call. And I just couldn't help but compare it to what Uke would have done in that situation. And I think about that often. What would he have done? How would he have handled a certain situation? I think the thing that people lose in thinking about Bob, the entertainer, or Bob, the Hollywood actor, the national personality that he was, you lose the fact that he was just a phenomenal play-by-play broadcaster. And I think that's how he wanted to be thought of first and foremost. He was just a great X's and O's broadcaster. And I just couldn't help but think what he would have done in that moment, which was one of the all-time great moments in playoff history. He had a home run in Game 7 to go to the World Series, which is what George Springer did to the Toronto Blue Jays on Monday night. But I was thinking, how would Bob Uecker have sounded at that moment? And I'll do that I'll do that the rest of my career, no doubt.
How do you not? Yeah, nor would you want to stop doing that, right? Because that's like, you've got to remember that. This kind of leads into talking about the World Series, which is on Fox tonight. I think people in Milwaukee, you know, it's happy, sad, right? Like, it's that whole power of and thing that they talk about, where it was a great season. We had so much to celebrate. I mean, we had, you know, the most wins in franchise history, went into the postseason, the best team in baseball. You know, but it's a bummer not to be in the World Series tonight. So I guess, as somebody who, you know, is kind of an insider who's been there for every game the whole time, like, what happened here? Because we performed so well against the Dodgers in the regular season.
Well, the Dodgers right now, it's a different animal than what anybody had experienced in the first, let's say, 5 months of this season. They got healthy. They have the highest payroll, and they showed it. You know, the money that they've spent was money very well spent. And now that they're all together, playing well, their pitching staff, their lineup, it's a juggernaut. I talked to someone when we were in Los Angeles last week who told me he thinks that this Dodgers team might be the best Major League Baseball team in the last 30 years almost. And that's quite a statement. The last time a team won consecutive World Series, you have to go back 25 years, the New York Yankees. And I think this Dodgers team may very well be, if they win this World Series against Toronto, they'll be the first team to repeat since, but they may be the best team since. And maybe almost inarguably. They're just so talent-laden at every position. And I think the Brewers kind of ran into a buzzsaw. Now, were they running on some fumes? Yeah, I think so. The Brewers had a really long, grinding series against the Cubs, and what a great, thrilling ending that was against their rivals from the South. But the Dodgers had kind of peaked and had more time to rest and be ready for the Brewers than the Brewers did to be ready for them. And I just think he ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. But I don't want that to detract from what this team accomplished throughout the 2025 season. It was memorable for so many different ways. And I think winning that series against the Cubs, in my mind, and maybe not in every fan's mind, but in my mind, that validated everything that they accomplished this year. They beat the Cubs. They beat Craig Counsell. They did it at home. One of the most exciting games that anybody around here can remember. And I think that anything after that was kind of going to be icing on the cake. That's just the way that I feel about it. The Dodgers are, in my mind, probably going to win the World Series. The Brewers, could they have performed a little bit better against them? Yeah, they could have. But I think it would have been a lot to ask to beat that team right now.
And a lot of the games were really close, right? Like, it wasn't necessary. I mean, it wasn't a washout, I would say. You know what I mean? Like, it seemed like they really put up a good fight, you know, all things considered. So for folks at home who are, you know, what are you looking for in the World Series in terms of, you know, why do you think people should still watch? I mean, obviously, if you're a baseball fan, I think you're going to watch the World Series because it's great baseball. It's fun. But yeah, what are you looking for in particular? Is it, you know, Shohei Ohtani? Is it, kind of walk me through what you're going to have your eye on tonight?
Well, I think the biggest thing, especially tonight, I'll start in the micro sense. for this game in particular, the Dodgers haven't played for a week. And in baseball, that is a huge deal. Okay. It's an everyday sport. The last game they played was against the Brewers last Friday. To go a week without playing a game and then all of a sudden have to ramp it back up to play game one of the World Series, it's interesting to see. I'm going to be curious, how sharp do they look for game one? They're going to be in a raucous atmosphere in Toronto on the road. The Blue Jays played on Monday night, so their layoff wasn't quite as long as Los Angeles. So tonight, I'm going to be very curious to see if the Dodgers look as sharp and as unbeatable as they did in that 4-game series against the Brewers. But in a more macro sense, there's some really fun storylines to follow in this World Series. Toronto hasn't won a World Championship since 1993. It's been a very long time. And I can tell you, we were up there at the end of August for a 3-game series. That not only city, but the entire country, they're captivated by this Blue Jays team. It is a huge deal up in Canada right now, what's going on. So I think that's one of the storylines. Can the Blue Jays do it? Can they break through? And for the Dodgers, as I said, they're trying to do something that hasn't happened in Major League Baseball in 25 years, which is win consecutive World Series. So that's a big deal also. There are other, I mean, there's the Shohei Ohtani angle. We all know how great he is. And the game that he played last Friday against the Brewers is one of, if not the greatest games that a human being has ever played in our sport. It was that good.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating.
No, you're right.
So Ohtani's going to be on the national stage again with all the eyeballs. And then finally, I would say, too, there's this kind of underlying fear that with the Dodgers performing this well, it's going to lead into a more acrimonious battle in a year when the players and the owners have to negotiate their upcoming collective bargaining agreement. There's all sorts of rumors swirling around about how owners want to try to rein in the kind of spending that the Dodgers have been able to do with the deep pockets that their ownership group has. And if the Dodgers win again, that's going to lead more fuel to the fire, I think, for a lot of the baseball owners, that they need to do something to try to stop teams from being able to spend as much money as the Dodgers have at will without really being restrained. So there's another kind of underlying storyline to keep an eye on. If the Dodgers win this series and they win again the World Series, that may very much lead into a baseball labor issue coming up in 2027.
So interesting. Yeah. It makes sense because you obviously get into the whole issue of fairness, right? Like in terms of you have all these people who are essentially doing the same job, but they're just making drastically different. There's a wage gap there that I'm sure will come up and will be addressed. Yeah, so interesting. All right, Josh, so I got to ask you before I let you go here, because you've been very generous with your time with me this afternoon. Thank you so much. So for people who work in the Brewers organization, like what does the off season look like for them? Do y'all just like go on vacation? Do you sleep? Because summer you're busy.
We are busy. Yeah. And there's more people that work in the organization that aren't as front facing as someone like a player or a coach or a broadcaster. And those are the majority of the folks that are working at American Family Field, and they're doing it 12 months a year. They're still coming into the office at the ballpark 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, throughout the off season. They were there, I promise you, at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, even though the team had been eliminated on Friday. Unlike me, I'm one of the fortunate ones that gets to kind of live more along the lines of the baseball calendar.
Yeah.
So when we're playing games, I'm present every day, but I'm not necessarily during the 4 or 5 months that there are no games. Will I be involved with the team? Yeah, but it's been nice to sleep this week. It's been nice to do a lot of laundry and catch up on things that you don't have all that much time to do for the 7 months that the baseball season is going on.
Yeah, you're probably looking around your apartment like, oh, I should probably get to that and
oh my goodness,
mail.
Yes. There are lists that pile up, and all of a sudden you have to start checking them off one by one.
Oh,
but there are a lot of really hardworking people in the Brewers organization. They don't get that kind of time off that those of us that rely on the baseball calendar do. They're already working very hard on 2026, selling tickets, marketing, coming up with game plans for getting promotional items and stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into preparing for a Major League Baseball season. So they're already hard at work at doing that, I can promise you.
Yeah. I can imagine. All right, Josh Maurer, Brewers broadcaster, thank you so much for joining us live this afternoon on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Congratulations on a fabulous season.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. I'll bug you again. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right. Okay, so it is 1:21. Such a wonderful conversation there with Josh Maurer, Brewers broadcaster. You can listen to his radio broadcast during the season. Of course, they've really got a fabulous broadcast team that are just really so good. We're so lucky to have them here in Milwaukee. Okay, so now we're going to take a short break here before I hand things over to Carl Deffenbaugh, who's going to be picking up hour 2 here. So let's take a quick break and
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk, everybody. My name is Nicola Junowitz. It is 1:25 on your Friday, October 24th. And now I'm going to take you actually live to Philadelphia, where the FBI is providing an update. They've just announced a multi-state drug bust in Philadelphia. They're saying that this investigation involved more than 20 people, so this is significant here. Let's take a listen in now. It looks like they're showing maybe some evidence pictures of what they've uncovered in this drug raid.
We're still tabulating drug quantities based on the seizures today. I would point you to the indictment, which alleges over 400 grams of fentanyl. That's the mandatory minimum quantity. But I would venture to say that the evidence will establish quantities far in excess of that into the realm of kilograms.
And then I know you mentioned violence and threats of violence. I didn't see charges for anyone and specifically with acts of violence, but can you share any details as to what that component of this investigation look like?
Sure, it's a good question. So there, at the moment, no substantive allegations of murder or shootings. I will say the investigation is still ongoing, but as you can see from the visual aids and as well as the evidence developed during the course of the investigation, there was significant evidence of violence and threats. But I will just revert back to my statement that we're still investigating and further charges could be coming.
And then one more quick one, that there's 33 people indicted here, and I know there are allegations that some people rent out corners and blocks. I mean, where did these folks, how did they get involved in the group? Did they live in Kensington? Did they live all over the city? How did that work?
That's a complicated question, and it's going to vary by the defendant. Not everyone lives on that particular block. You can think of it as a business location. Yes, sir.
To bounce off of that, you said there were also arrests in Wilmington, Delaware, and in South Jersey. Do we believe that there was activity as well in those communities beyond Weymouth Street?
Did I say that?
I said that.
You said that. You might want to ask Special Agent in charge, Jacobs, that question. Do you mind answering that?
Yeah, I mean, as the U.S. Attorney mentioned, not everyone lived on the block. Folks reside in other locales. Delaware, Jersey were just two of them.
Besides them living there, do we believe that this activity was also happening in those communities?
I don't think that's referenced in the indictment. I think it was just an address where they were arrested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you referenced two people that sounded like they were the leaders. I know it's in the indictment, but just your description of how they operated. Was it like there were two bosses and there were lieutenants and there were soldiers? How would you describe it being structured?
Yes, I mean, I think it's structured characteristic of many of these street-level drug trafficking organizations with owners and operators and then lower-level managers and then people who handle the day-to-day sales. As I mentioned, and you'll see in the indictment, they had a pretty sophisticated sort of business enterprise here, organizing shifts, who's going to work here, when. But yeah, that would be managed by a vertically integrated leadership structure that you would see endemic to most drug trafficking organizations.
And some people might ask, wow, that's a long time to know about this, operation on their end, operating here. What was the change? What made it so that you said that, hey, we're going to have an operation now, we're going to focus on this, or is this something that's just been ongoing? I guess what was the catalyst to come to today?
It's always a balance between, so are you asking what was the genesis of the investigation?
I guess I'm asking why now, if you've known about it since 2016.
We have to build a case, right? And that takes time. As I mentioned, it takes a very diligent amount of effort by both the prosecutors and the agents to accumulate the evidence to put together a case like this. And our goal strategically is to eliminate the organization by putting together the best charges that we can, and that takes time. These are the type of cases we want to do. We could obviously just prosecute individual seizures of guns and drugs, but the organizational prosecutions, in my experience as a career prosecutor, that's what's going to make the difference in the community. This neighborhood will be a lot safer than it would be if we didn't take our time to do that. Yes?
I'm sorry. Did you think you dismantled the whole operation?
Yes.
You keep referring to them as the Weymouth Street Drug Trafficking Organization. Is that the name of their gang?
Yes.
Okay.
One more.
Can we just go through the numbers
29 are in custody.
In custody. There were 22 arrested this morning, and eight others were transferred to federal custody.
That'll be coming next week.
Coming next week.
Yeah.
How many firearms
They,
were taken?
I said one more. Are you sneaking one in? Go ahead.
How many firearms were taken off the street today?
I don't have the exact tally on that. As I said, they're still accumulating the evidence. So thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh here. Just took over the reins from Nicola Jenowitz, who handled the first hour duties today. I will be with you here for the next hour until 2:30. Of course, the Wisconsin Live Desk runs until 3:30 each and every Monday through Friday. What you've just been listening to there, officials, including the FBI Director Kash Patel, in Philadelphia to detail a drug raid that happened in that city. Patel has been busy. Just yesterday, he made the announcement with other members of law enforcement about that major bust into mafia operations and illegal sports betting and gambling situations happening based out of New York, but involving a series of NBA players, including Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, the current head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers and an NBA Hall of Famer, and a former member of the Milwaukee Bucks, Damon Jones, involved in that. This separate, of course, this is related to a drug raid in Philadelphia you've just been listening to here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And we will see what else we find over the next hour or so. Just to reset a little bit here, I'm getting logged in and caught up to speed as well. But this is the Wisconsin Live Desk on a Friday afternoon. You've gotten a lot already from updates from Nicola on International Bat Week, always fun to look back at the Milwaukee Brewers 2025 season from Josh Mauer, one of the guys calling the action for the Brewers throughout this magical, historic run. We have a little bit else to look ahead to here in this next hour. Let me tell you what we're tracking here that could start probably within the next 15 minutes or so, and something we'll certainly carry for you live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk when it begins. That would be a briefing from County Executive David Crowley, supposed to provide a reaction to President Donald Trump's decision, according to Crowley, to deny the state of Wisconsin's request for FEMA public assistance. This is going to be at the county exec's office inside the county courthouse, supposed to happen possibly around 1:45 today. So that's something we're staying on the lookout for as we get you ready and up to speed on this Friday afternoon. Usually we're used to things like a Friday news dump or a slow Friday. That has been anything but today, as we have had that national news, that update from federal law enforcement on a major drug bust in Philadelphia, and now looking ahead to a response from Milwaukee's county executive to actions taken by the Trump administration that could impact FEMA assistance here in Wisconsin. Of course, all of that coming after historic flooding in the southeastern Wisconsin area going back to the end of August. And we know still cleanup is happening from that. Businesses and homes still recovering from what turned out to be, in some places, the most rain we've ever gotten in a 24-hour period in the history of Wisconsin anywhere in the state. That was the case for some areas during that August rainstorm, and continues to be an impact for so many here throughout southeastern Wisconsin. That decision, though, from the president certainly is going to be a major story for us today, something our reporters are covering, and we will bring you that update from the county executive, his response. I think you can imagine, coming from a Democratic county executive against the Republican president in the White House today. Now, because of this, we're kind of getting up to speed on what exactly this could mean. We have received a few different statements already on what is coming here, including one from FEMA. We reached out to FEMA's press office, our reporter working on this today, and so far the response that we have gotten is this, and I'll read this verbatim, this statement that we received from FEMA. It says, due to the lapse in federal government funding, this email inbox may not be actively monitored at this time. As a result, we may be unable to respond to your message, or there may be a delay in our response due to the high volume of inquiries. So there you go. The federal government funding impacting even the ability to get a response from FEMA's press office about this news on Friday. One of the other people we're hearing from is the mayor of Milwaukee, Cavalier Johnson, who released his own statement after the denial of public assistance disaster funds from FEMA. The mayor says, quote, "Obviously, we are disappointed with the decision to leave local governments on their own to deal with the consequences of August's devastating flood. In a time when local government budgets are extremely tight, Milwaukee could certainly have deployed disaster funding in a way that mitigated the burden our taxpayers will have to shoulder. Milwaukee households and businesses have received federal aid, but that was only part of the costly effects of this disaster. We had hoped the federal government would choose to extend this additional assistance." And again, that's a statement from Mayor Cavalier Johnson, who finishes that statement by saying, "I understand Governor Tony Evers intends to appeal this decision, and he has my full support in that effort." So just some of the updates coming after that news that the Trump administration and federal funding disaster relief requests that were put in by the governor and approved by President Donald Trump would now not necessarily be coming to Wisconsin. We have statements from the governor as well, and again, waiting on the county executive, David Crowley, who is hosting a press conference availability for us that we will hope to take for you. Let me just check here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Again, we're expecting that possibly in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. When it happens, we will try to bring that to you. That was originally scheduled for 1:30, but pushed to 1:45, so we'll watch that. How about in the meantime, we got a little bit of good news for the music fans out there at least, and that's coming from the folks over at Fiserv Forum. Let me see what we have for you when it comes to, let me pull this up for you real quick. This is the joy there of looking at the downtown Milwaukee skyline. So City Hall on the right, we just heard the mayor's statement in response to some of the news of the day. Over to the left, a nice shot of Fiserv Forum, and we have some good news for music fans, especially those from a certain genre and era. Should be excited about a concert that was just announced at Fiserv Forum. Listen to this lineup. New Edition with Boyz II Men and Tony Braxton coming to Fiserv Forum March 21st. Looking forward to this. It's the New Edition Way Tour. The extraordinary cross-country concert experience brings together three of music's most enduring and influential acts, New Edition, Boyz II Men, and Tony Braxton. So this is going to be Saturday, March 21st at the Bucks Arena, a landmark event, the statement says, celebrating music, legacy, and connection, offering fans a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see these legendary artists performing together in one dynamic 360-degree view. So there you go. That might be kind of a cool take if you're familiar with concerts at Fiserv Forum. Bit of a different setup perhaps for this. If you're curious, there's a whole bunch of pre-sales that will start. Tickets in general will go on sale on Halloween, so a week from today, Friday, October 31st at 10 in the morning. But before that, starting on Monday, there's a couple different pre-sales for folks with American Express. New Edition has its own pre-sale, Spotify has a pre-sale, and then Boyz II Men and the venue pre-sales will happen throughout next week before the main tickets go on sale on Halloween. By the way, that tour name, The New Edition Way, according to the release here from the different artists, that pays tribute to the group's historic recognition by its beloved hometown, the city of Boston, where a street was recently named New Edition Way in honor of its profound cultural and musical impact. So that's pretty cool. Taking the name of a street, which was the name of a band, and turning it back into the name of a tour for that band. Should be pretty fun to see. Personally, big fan of Boyz II Men. My friend group growing up in high school, we would attempt to sing that, obviously not nearly as well as the group themselves at parties and the like. So excited to see them come back to town. I believe they were actually just here, Boyz II Men, over the summer with State Fair, which continues to expand its music lineup as well. So we'll see what they bring to town over at that building far off to the left of the screen here. Just announced moments ago, maybe about 30 minutes. New Edition, Boyz II Men, and Tony Braxton coming to Fiserv Forum. All right, with that, we are going to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. A lot more to get to, of course, that press conference and availability from Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who is, of course, also running for governor next year in the state of Wisconsin. We'll hear what he has to say over the loss of FEMA funding for Wisconsinites recovering from that historic flooding, and much more to come on the Wisconsin Live Desk. It's all happening right after this break, just 2 minutes away.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here on this Friday afternoon. A couple things that we're watching for you already at this hour. One quick note, we are tracking, our cameras have arrived in that media availability for Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. So this is the camera we have in the room. As soon as Crowley steps to that podium, which we are expecting around 1:45 or so, we will take that for you live. We are also keeping our eyes out east ahead of a big sports weekend. This is a live camera from what I still want to call Heinz Field out in Pittsburgh, but I got to remind myself it's Acrisure now. Let me make sure I actually know the Acrisure Stadium. There you go. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was Heinz Field for so long. It's like Miller Park's transition to American Family Field. I got to rewire my brain for that. Acrisure Stadium, the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and a certain quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who for the first time will be facing his former team, the Green Bay Packers. Those 2 years with the Jets, because of the quirks of the schedule and injuries for Rodgers, did not face Green Bay. Now he will get that opportunity with his new team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Sunday night. Just a few storylines looking ahead to that, and perhaps we'll have some time to break down what's coming in terms of the weekend ahead and the chance for Rodgers to face off against his former team. He even said this week, he's been very actually magnanimous. He said that it probably would have been even meant a little bit more if it was at Lambeau Field, right? He's still getting himself familiar with Pittsburgh and with that stadium versus the place where he spent 18 years and has so many memories, so many people that he interacted with over the many, many years with Green Bay. So still a chance to become a quarterback that has beaten every other NFL team. The only team he hasn't beat, the Green Bay Packers, who he has never played until this Sunday, while the Packers certainly hoping to show to Aaron and show to the rest of the league that decision to move on and move to Jordan Love was the right decision for the franchise. So a couple things we're watching out east in western Pennsylvania for this weekend. The other thing we'll try to catch for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, that would be the World Series. Game 1 starts tonight. Of course, the Milwaukee Brewer fans here in town wish it was their team traveling across the border to Toronto. Instead, it's that juggernaut LA Dodgers roster that swept the Brewers right out of the NLCS. Game 1 of the World Series tonight. And as you can see, the Blue Jays have the podium set up there ready for Game 1, as was the case for the Brewers during the NL Division Series and Championship Series. There are pregame media availability options for players and coaches. If that happens, we'll try to get to some of that for you as well, because even though the Brewers aren't in it, should be a really fun matchup between these two teams, with the Blue Jays trying to win their first World Series since 1993, so it's been 3 decades since they last won. And for the Dodgers, they are trying to make some history, the first team to go back-to-back since that storied New York Yankees roster of the late 90s into the year 2000. So it'd be 25 years since a team has won back-to-back titles, if the Dodgers are able to do that over the next week plus to come. All of the action, of course, on Fox, so you can check us out here in the Milwaukee area and southeastern Wisconsin if you want to watch Game 1 of the World Series tonight. It starts at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. And Brewers fans, or maybe specifically the Brewers lineup, might still have nightmares of this guy, but on the mound for Game 1 for LA, Blake Snell, who was absolutely sensational, dominating the Brewers in Game 1 of the NLCS, gets the ball for the Dodgers in Game 1 of the World Series tonight. Snell, of course, had that absolute gem, faced the minimum over 8 scoreless innings, allowed just 1 hit, and promptly picked Caleb Durbin off of first base. So faced the minimum over 8 innings. The Brewers could not do a thing about Blake Snell here in Milwaukee. We'll see what Vlad Guerrero Jr. and the rest of that vaunted Blue Jays lineup can do with Snell tonight. Game 1 of the Fall Classic, always fun. And what will Shohei Ohtani do for an encore after that 10 strikeout, 3 home run game to clinch the pennant for the Dodgers against Milwaukee? Again, all of this still to come on this Friday afternoon, tracking a number of different things for you. The fun of the sports, certainly a lot of politics to be had as well on this Friday. And then as soon as David Crowley, the county executive, steps to that podium, something else that we'll carry for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. One other thing I want to mention, coming out of, let me pop this up for you real quick, switch gears to a live shot of the White House on this Friday afternoon. Another major escalation and development for the U.S.'s role military operation in the Caribbean. The U.S. is sending an aircraft carrier to Latin America, and that is a major sign of the buildup the administration is choosing in the Caribbean when it comes to these escalating attacks and strikes against what they say are drug boats coming from Venezuela and bringing narcotics into the U.S. So an update from the Associated Press on this, that the U.S. military is repositioning one of its aircraft carriers to the waters off of South America. This is, again, a major buildup in forces in the region. This was announced by the Pentagon on Friday and by President Trump's Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, so something we will follow for you there. In the meantime, let's get you to David Crowley, the county executive. We said the moment he stepped to the podium, we would take him live. Here we go.
FEMA public assistance after severe storms and flooding that has caused significant damage to public infrastructure back in August. Today's announcement impacts not only Milwaukee County, but it impacts Door County, Grant County, Waukesha County, Washington, and Ozaukee County. And as many of you know, all of us, Milwaukee County especially, we have been working extremely hard to recover from these extreme storms as well as the historic flooding. And so following the approval of the individual assistance request, FEMA has distributed more than $123 million in financial assistance to Milwaukee County residents so they can repair their homes and take major steps towards normalcy. I've previously commended the Trump administration for delivering the federal funding to our residents as well as our businesses, because I believe that there is no room for politics in the aftermath of a natural disaster. But the cost to repair the damage to our public assets throughout eastern Wisconsin, like our roads, bridges, and public buildings, they still loom over impacted counties and municipalities. The preliminary damage assessments show that the damage that we saw throughout all 6 counties is more than significant. Roads and bridges that our residents rely on sustain substantial damage. Public buildings and facilities were not only washed away, but in some cases had significant mold contamination that will also impact the public health and safety of our residents. Our parks and our trails, they were damaged, which will harm our quality of life in the short term as well as the long term, and the list goes on. And on a related note, we all know that the County Board Committee on Finance is downstairs right now debating a very tough 2026 budget. We're already making challenging decisions about funding not only programs and services, but future infrastructure spending and capital projects that are needed not only now, but in the years ahead. Today's action by the Trump administration will send us back even further. It will delay progress in our recovery efforts from this natural disaster, and it will place a financial burden solely on local taxpayers who have already had to sacrifice so much as a result of these floods. And so to put it plain and simple, federal funding is needed to afford the repairs of the public infrastructure that was damaged from these floods so we can continue to provide safe infrastructure for our entire community. And so without the federal assistance, Milwaukee County, we are left footing the bill to the assessed $22 million in public infrastructure. But similarly to the individual assistance, we do anticipate that the cost will be much higher than that. And so I am also encouraged by the state of Wisconsin that they're going to soon be appealing this denial. And I want to applaud Governor Evers and his administration for their leadership, their partnership in working to help not only Milwaukee County, but all of our counties recover. And so in closing, I want to strongly urge President Trump to approve the funding for FEMA public assistance so we can afford to rebuild our roads, our bridges, and our public infrastructure. And it is unfortunate that local property tax owners, local taxpayers, local municipalities will now have to pay the price for decisions that are happening in Washington, D.C. And so I just want to say thank you again for being here. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have, but I do want to encourage you all to contact FEMA for specifics regarding the process and information on the FEMA public assistance. So any questions?
Can you give us a specific example of either a public building, a road, or a bridge that was damaged in the flooding that this money would have gone toward?
I mean, we can look directly at Hart Park, for example, in Wauwatosa. Even the bridge over there, and we've seen many of the crumbling infrastructure right there. We want to make sure that all of our trails, we continue to provide that quality of life living for every resident. And so many families rely on our Milwaukee County parks just to enjoy themselves, especially with the summertime ending and now going into the fall months, making sure that our young people have the opportunity to go trick-or-treating without having to worry about whether or not the public infrastructure is stable enough. But there are buildings, for example, our McGovern Park Senior Center, right, that's dealing with significant molding, which can create a lot of health risks for many of our seniors. And so that's just to name a few.
You talked a little bit about the budget struggles that you guys are dealing with heading into the next fiscal year. In the proposal that Governor Evers initially sent, Milwaukee was slated for an initial public assistance ask of $34 million. If this appeal fails, how are you guys going to come up with tens of millions of dollars to fund these projects?
Well, this is again going to really set us back, and it's going to create a longer timeline for us to recover and get to a place of normalcy. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm encouraged that we're going to be appealing this process at the state level. We do believe that there is an opportunity to talk to the governor and his administration related to funds for natural disasters that the state has as well. But again, this isn't just a Milwaukee County problem. 6 other counties are also facing the same issues that we are. And so it's extremely important that our national federal government helps us with these funds moving forward.
Is there money in the county's emergency fund to cover this?
Right now, we are already debating a very difficult budget. And we're going to be making some really tough decisions as it relates to our own programs and services. And so there's no way Milwaukee County, and quite frankly, I don't think any county across the state that have been impacted by these floods will be able to recover on their own.
Did they provide a reason for the denial, and do you buy it?
I have not heard what that denial is or the reason why. I think is that it's really unfortunate that governments, local units of government that provide a quality of life, that provide goods and services, not only for our businesses, but to our residents alike, that we're being denied the opportunity to invest in the buildings and services and programs that help to improve our quality of living every single day.
County Executive, can you walk us through the contingency conversations that the board has been having? I'm sure that you were planning for this possibility. What kind of conversations were being had about where money could come from or new revenue could come from?
Well, as we continue to go through this budget process, we want to wait to see what happens throughout this budget process. I mean, we do have our debt service reserve that we have been building up. But when it comes down to this particular issue, when it comes down to this natural disaster, we just can't simply afford to put all of our county dollars towards this. We need partnerships. That's not just with the state of Wisconsin, but that's also with our federal government. And so it is my hope that throughout this appeal process, or at the end of this appeal process, we will be receiving some level of support.
Is there damage that's going to necessitate action in this budget cycle, though? Like,
Can you repeat that again?
Is there any damage that's going to necessitate action in this budget cycle, though? Like, maybe you can't fix it all, but is there something that absolutely needs to be fixed now?
I think right now we're going to allow the supervisors to go through this budget process, right? And we want to see what this appeal process also brings. So we can answer that later on down the timeline.
What is the most accurate dollar number for how much Milwaukee stands to gain or will lose if this denial stands?
I mean, right now we're talking, they've assessed that $22 million. And if you look at what happened with the individual assistance, they originally gave us, I think, $39 million, and now we have given more than $100 million. And so I can see this anywhere in the early or low 30s at this moment, but it's going to be very difficult. We are already dealing with a deferred maintenance backlog close to $1 billion here within Milwaukee County because of the decisions that past leaders have made. We are trying to pick up every expensive can that has been kicked down the road, but this is absolutely going to set us back if Milwaukee County has to do this on their own.
Getting this denial letter today, what was just your initial reaction?
What happens now to repairs? Are some being put on hold? Have some been made? Are there things that, how urgent is this?
This is really about making sure that we can maintain the quality of living for many of our residents. I would say it's extremely urgent, right? I look at our parks as being one of the crown jewels that we have within Milwaukee County. That not only provides physical activity for our young people and for older adults, but it's also a mental refuge. And so many people who have been impacted by these floods are going into our parks to kind of find a way to find their own peace. And so I would say that it's extremely important that we get things done. But we have to look at what this timeline will look like throughout the appeal process to really give you an accurate answer as far as what's the next step for us.
Two more questions. I wanted to ask one unrelated question, somewhat. It's about the hearing that's happening downstairs right now. The Finance Committee voted to swap some jail camera improvement funding to go to MCTS safety officers to help improve the bus fare evaders. I guess if it makes it all the way to your desk, will you sign that and support that?
I'm going to wait for this entire budget process to play out. I'm not going to just look at one particular amendment that they're making. I'm going to look at everything in the totality at the end of this. And so once they send the budget back to my desk, we'll take a holistic look before making a decision. I do want to say that this is a very unique issue related to the fare evasion, not something that's uniquely uniquely happening in Milwaukee County, because we've seen this happening in communities all across the entire country. And so we're going to look at this entire budget at the end of this process, and stay tuned.
Last question. We've talked with leaders across all of these counties that are impacted by this denial today. When you saw this denial come down by the federal government, what was your initial reaction?
I was extremely disappointed. Again, I commended the Trump administration because I thought we were putting politics behind us and making sure that communities can recover, right? And in order for communities to recover, it's not just about individuals and businesses. It's also about local units of government that is providing the resources, the programs, and the services that many residents rely on. And for us, that's from those who are as young as 1 year old and who's as older as 75 or 80 years old. And so we want to make sure that we are here for those who need it. And it's unfortunate that now, with this denial, if we're not able to win in this appeal process, that we're going to have to scale back to figure out how we can make sure that we can improve the quality of life with what has been impacted by these recent floods.
Do you think the denial, you mentioned in your statement that Trump previously wasn't playing politics, do you think this denial is a political decision?
It's hard to really say on that. The fact is that we made sure to help out our businesses as well as our residents, but they also rely on us. And so is this something that we want to continue to blame local municipalities on? Is this the way that we want to continue to say that government doesn't work? I am not sure. But what I do hope is that we can build partnership. It doesn't matter if you like my policies or not. It is our job to deliver for the people that we represent. And that is my hope with anybody who is in office, from a city alderman to the president of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. You can hear County Executive David Crowley there addressing the news that the Trump administration would be denying federal disaster relief funding that had previously been expected to come to not only Milwaukee County, but a number of other counties around the state as well. Just to get you up to speed, if you're just joining us here, just past the 2 o'clock hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk, the Trump administration and FEMA specifically announced that they had denied the federal disaster request for Wisconsin communities impacted by that severe rain and flooding going back to August of this year. Those communities, not just, as I mentioned, Milwaukee County, but also Waukesha County, Washington, Ozaukee, Door, and Grant counties, all involved in this. In a letter sent to Governor Tony Evers, and we have the statement, you can read it right now on Fox Local as well if you find this story specifically, FEMA said that while the impact to individuals and households was significant, based on the preliminary damage assessments, it has been determined that the public assistance program is not warranted. And some of this is getting into the wording here of this, so if you're wondering, the individual assistance is what would go to individual households, homeowners, and the like, people needing to rebuild and get back after losing so much in that flooding. The public assistance was going to those municipalities, communities like Milwaukee County around the state, and that has been denied and not deemed warranted by FEMA. I mentioned earlier that we have reached out to FEMA for more context, more input on what went into that decision. So far, they have not responded to that. In fact, the only response that we got was sort of an automated explanation from FEMA's press office that because of the ongoing federal government shutdown and an issue, a lapse in funding, the email inbox of that press office for FEMA may not be actively monitored. So not exactly a real response there, but that's what we've gotten so far. You also heard there Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley saying that FEMA has distributed more than $123 million in financial assistance to Milwaukee County residents so far. That was through the individual assistance requests, not through this separate public assistance request. And the county exec there referencing Hart Park and other parts of Milwaukee County that were so hard hit and still are recovering, and they're still checking out the infrastructure of some of those areas. The public assistance program, according to Crowley, would have helped repair public infrastructure. $22 million in damages would fall on Milwaukee County to pay, and as you heard the questioning from some of the reporters in that room, comes at a time where already the county finances and the budget are a bit up in the air. They're going through this process between the County Board of Supervisors and the county exec right now, trying to figure out what money they have, where it can go. It comes amid this whole issue of fare evasion for MCTS and whether they can recoup some of that money that the county transit system is not getting from riders that just choose not to pay while on county buses. Lots of questions for the county exec, and then the news today that FEMA would not be providing public assistance funding for Milwaukee and a series of other counties in Wisconsin. That coming from the Trump administration and the Federal Emergency Management Association today. So that is what we have for you here just past the 2 o'clock hour on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Again, we are tracking a number of other things for you on this Friday afternoon, a very busy one as it turns out so far on this Friday. We will take a short 2-minute break and be back with much more after this on the Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hello, hello. Carl Deffenbaugh back with you here on this Friday afternoon, 2:06, 6 minutes past the hour, as we keep it rolling on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Nicola Jenowitz handled first hour duties today. I get the middle portion, and then Sam Kramer will be joining you for hour 3, as we are here for you each and every Monday through Friday from 12:30 to 3:30 here on Fox Local and the Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube channel, as well as streaming on our website, fox6now.com. However you're joining us, thanks for being here. All right, before we went to break, I mentioned a few of the other things that we're tracking for you here at this hour, hoping to bring this for you live once it begins. This is a podium setup where the governor of Illinois is supposed to speak in just a matter of moments, something we'll try to carry for you, given all the news coming from our neighbors to the south most recently. Now, this is an appearance by Governor J.B. Pritzker, supposedly to address the early completion of the Kennedy Expressway Rehabilitation Project, as you see a number of construction workers and big trucks behind there for Governor Pritzker to address the assembled media with that slogan, Rebuild Illinois. This is an appearance, of course, as the governor's office is saying, to celebrate the early completion of the Kennedy Expressway. Anyone, if you're like me, that occasionally drives down to Chicago knows what a bear the traffic can be. And apparently at least one major construction project has finished early down there. And it looks like a number of the dignitaries, including the governor there, you can see kind of in the middle of that line, approaching now. So if he steps to the podium, let's take Governor J.B. Pritzker live. This will be a little bit focused on the project, but given all the news that the governor and President Donald Trump have made back and forth with the use of the National Guard in Chicago specifically, we expect there to be some questioning along those lines as well. So for now, let's listen in to the different officials, and then we'll see where this goes with Governor Pritzker in attendance at this media briefing.
Thanks everyone for coming out today to celebrate a major win for Chicago. A major win, thanks in no small part to a whole lot of people. We couldn't fit in this room, all the people who had something to do with this project. But a lot of that thanks, and a lot of the possibility starts under the leadership of Governor Pritzker and everybody else who helped make the Rebuild Illinois program happen. That's why we're standing here today. So a big welcome to our elected representatives. Let's see, Senators Leader Collins, Senator Villalon, Representative Delgado, Andrade, Guzzardi, Alderman Burnett, many others. It takes more than a village to pull off some of these kinds of projects. And I guess I forgot to mention, I'm Gia Biaggi. I am the Secretary of Transportation for Illinois, and I am pleased to officially announce the completion of the Kennedy Expressway project. You should clap. All right. So this morning we reopened the Ontario Street ramps and the Wilson Avenue ramp, officially reaching that finish line and reaching it a month early, well ahead of our Thanksgiving deadline. That should be applauded. Yeah. Ahead of schedule, please. I mean, come on. So it all started way back in 2023. So let's remember what we were facing, right? This was an expressway named for Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, that was built when he was still president. Like, that is how old that we are talking in terms of this piece of infrastructure. So 60 years later, you know, it was in some rough shape. Certainly potholes, big potholes, right, that would pop up at the worst times. Potholes that made you hold on to that steering wheel a little tighter. And not only putting drivers in jeopardy, but also our highway maintainers, our folks who are out there every day who are doing that work. So we had the potholes, we had bridges that hadn't been touched in decades, the express lanes, which the term in the industry is the reversibles, so if I refer to it that way, that's why. But the express lanes had long exceeded their lifespan. So at long last, all of that is in the rearview mirror. So a quick reminder of what we've accomplished. 7.5 miles of roadway repaired from Ohio to the 1994 split. That's nearly 75 lane miles, huge. We fixed 24 exit and entrance ramps, 36 bridges rehabbed, painted, energy efficient LED lighting on the corridor, new signs, modernized message boards, and that express lane, a complete overhaul of the express lanes. And that's, it's not just what you see, but the electronics associated with it. We call it the RevLAC system. But that's what makes it possible for us to put the gates down, bring the gates up. All of that makes it easier for us to operate, and it also makes it easier for us when it gets damaged. And I'll pause there for a second, which is, it's open, but we want you to be safe out there, and we want our maintainers to be safe out there. But inevitably, people do hit those gates, and so please take care when you're out there. If you see our workers out there, drive slow. But we repaired that system and fixed it in a way that would make those repairs that we will have to do when people inevitably collide with it, make it easier to do. So. Okay, 3 long construction seasons, right, to get to this point. We could not have gotten here without support and partnership and leadership, certainly starting with the governor himself and really his directive to invest in core assets, to take this opportunity of rebuild and put it to work and put people to work and to make safe and reliable and restored public transportation infrastructure. He also challenged us to move a little faster, and we did, in this last phase especially, finishing the project a month ahead of schedule. Our partnership with labor and engineering and the construction community, just huge. And it really is impossible for me to name everyone, but I do want to throw a couple of names out there. Thanks to Lochner, Jacobs, J.A. Waits, Grafe, Dunnett Bay, HNTB, and Lorig Construction. Special hat tip to HNTB and Lorig. We really pushed. We were in a lot of conversations this last year, and they responded. I also want to highlight the contributions of our disadvantaged business community, our DBEs, who were on the project. ABNA, Singh, SDI Engineering, Wang, Material Solutions, Atlas, Tecma, Pinpoint Precision, more. We know we're in uncertain times when it comes to disadvantaged business at the federal level, but here's what we know for certain. We have the best women-owned, the best minority-owned, the best veteran-owned businesses anywhere in the country right here in Illinois. They do great work. We have their back, and we should continue to do work with them. We also have our friends in labor and many, many workers here today who worked around the clock, day and night. While you might have been sleeping, we had people working, trying to get this done. Thank you to the Chicago Federation of Labor and all the unions. It is impossible to get the work done without you all. A few last thanks, certainly to CTA and CDOT. CTA, we have to work. The train line's going right up down the middle. We have to coordinate. They were great partners in that. Chicago Department of Transportation, Commissioner Turner and his team, that coordination was essential, as of course traffic is going to neighborhoods, how we work together to alleviate that as best as possible. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you to our IDOT team that's all over here today. Especially Region 1 engineer Jose Rios, his crew, Fawad Akil, Samaram, Robert Bearden, Sharisa Hatcher, and the indomitable John Schumacher, our Bureau Chief of Construction. He has lived and breathed this project. He has suffered through my phone calls. He has been on it the whole way. So thank you, John. Incredible work. And then lastly, thank you to the public. Thank you, Chicago. Thank you, everyone who used the expressway throughout this. We appreciate your patience and understanding, and we are open for use, and we so appreciate your patience along the way. So thank you. And so then I want to hand it over to the person that really does make it all possible, that placed a bet that we could deliver on infrastructure, and we have. Please allow me to introduce Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Thank you so much to Secretary Biaggi, and good afternoon, everyone. We can do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Love it. Thank you so much, and really, it makes me so proud to be the leader of a state where we are delivering on revitalizing our transportation systems, and we're not just delivering; we're delivering it on time. In fact, early. And I want to thank everybody in the room for that. I am very pleased to be celebrating the completion of another major infrastructure project for the state of Illinois. This is yet again one that was completed in a quality fashion, done by quality people, working together, collaborating, and making it happen for the people of Illinois. With a project of this magnitude, it is that collaboration, the passionate, dedicated individuals all pulling together in the same direction. And I want to thank so many of you who are here. And of course, you heard the names from Gia a bit. I do want to recognize that that doesn't happen everywhere. There's, sometimes infrastructure projects in other states get delayed because people aren't willing to work together, or because the folks who are working on it aren't union members who know how to get things done in a quality fashion. And I want to, as a result, start by thanking and recognizing the men and women of organized labor who put their shovels in the ground and shoulders to the wheel to get this project done early. They are the force that makes a whole lot of things happen in this state. You are the folks who deliver in a quality fashion. It's your talent, it's your skills that make sure that we have quality roads and bridges and ports and airports and all the things that we're building and rebuilding in the state. And I'm very proud to be working with all of you, and of course represented by Bob Ryder, who's behind me. I think you're going to hear from him from the Chicago Federation of Labor. So congratulations to all of you, and well done. I want to thank the folks from the General Assembly that are here. You don't get things done without leaders that you send to Springfield to work with me. Leader Ram Vilivalam, Senator Lakeisha Collins, Representative Jamie Andrade, Leader Evedina Delgado, and of course the others across the state who aren't here today, but who helped to deliver on these investments by passing the Rebuild Illinois plan back in 2019, and then continually re-upping as we announce our multi-year plans each year, this one being the largest ever in the history of the state. I also want to recognize our local partners, particularly my friend Alderman Burnett, and of course the Chicago Department of Transportation Commissioner Craig Turner. Again, nothing gets done unless we collaborate at every level of government, particularly a project of this importance. And finally, to every Illinoisan and every out-of-town visitor who endured the traffic while we made this crucial progress for the state, thank you. At a time of historic division in our politics, there is one idea that we can all rally around, and that's traffic sucks. But these improvements were vital to make, and it was an investment in our future. Thank you for your patience. We'll have safer roads, we'll have faster commutes in the long run as a result of this. I often have said that when you see an orange cone out there, slow down. I'm sorry you have to slow down. And in general, sorry you have to put up with orange cones, but I'm not sorry actually, because this is about building the state for the next 10, 20, 30 years. What you've done by completing this project is going to be lived and part of people's lives for so many years to come, and it will make their lives easier and better. So thank you for making all that happen. From the beginning, I have worked with the General Assembly to make rebuilding our infrastructure one of our state's highest priorities. Years of neglect and deferred maintenance have left our roads and bridges crumbling, and every region of the state was suffering from it. Our people were less safe, our communities were less connected, and our businesses less productive. Rebuild Illinois sought to change all that. Our bipartisan capital plan is one of the most comprehensive in the entire nation. We passed it before the federal government ever got around to it. The biggest plan in the entire country. In fact, the Secretary, I'm surprised she didn't say it here, but we had the largest plan, larger than California.
Larger than Texas, larger than Florida.
Larger than Texas, larger than Florida. People don't believe that, but that is true. And we did that before the federal government came around. $45 billion for the state of Illinois, $20 billion from the federal government. We're rebuilding everything across the state. Rebuild Illinois sought to change the direction of the state, and it has. Our bipartisan capital plan really has allowed us to meet the size and scale and scope of the problem that we were facing. It's a plan not just to rectify the shortcomings of the past, but to build something truly better for our future. So what you see at the Kennedy Expressway rehabilitation is the embodiment of that vision. These structures were over 60 years old and hadn't been rebuilt for over 30 years. A road of this importance that everyone drives, being in the condition that it was in, was a symbol of the broader problems that our state used to face. Delay and inaction being the cause of those problems. And it was also a major inconvenience and safety hazard for drivers. So what you see today is something that we can all be very proud of. 275,000 vehicles pass through the Kennedy Expressway every single day. That is hundreds of thousands of workers making their commute, parents taking their kids to school, delivery drivers moving freight, tourists coming to see Chicago. We have just made all of their lives and their drives faster and easier and safer. 1 million square feet of high-performance latex concrete was poured, which is enough to cover Millennium Park twice over. 16 new overhead sign structures were added or replaced, which stacked on top of each other would be taller than the Willis Tower. A total of 1,200 new LED light fixtures were installed, one for every seat in the Chicago Theater. Think about that. I mean, folks, this is a major project that you have accomplished. Now, sometimes when we do these things, we're talking about a beautiful new park or bike lane or a fancy rail station. This is not one of those times. It isn't the flashiest project when we talk about rebuilding roads, but it is one of vital importance to us all. That is the essence of what Rebuild Illinois is really all about. It's doing the gritty, foundational, and absolutely essential work that provides for economic growth and safety and a better quality of life for everyone. Now, I've been up and down the state over these last few weeks, as I have over the last 6.5 years, but lately, and I was here in Chicago and Quad Cities and Metro East, I've been checking out all the incredible progress that we've been making on projects just like this one. And the word transformation comes to mind. Big things have happened to vault our state forward, and this is one of the biggest. There is still a whole lot more work to do. Our newest multi-year plan is the largest in our history, in the history of the Illinois Department of Transportation. That means more projects to undertake, more communities to revitalize, more jobs for folks who are wearing orange today, and the opportunity to truly create something great. So I look forward to seeing all of you at more events like this one as we continue our top-down revitalization of Illinois' infrastructure. So thank you all again. Because our hard work today, the hundreds of thousands of Illinoisans that will use this Kennedy Expressway will have a safer, faster way to get around every day, and they'll be thankful to the work that you've done. So with that, I want to express my gratitude and my pleasure to hand this podium over to a true leader for organized labor, a true leader in this state, and that's the president of the Chicago Federation of Labor, Bob Reiter. Bob? Behind you.
Well, there you've heard the remarks from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker there, celebrating the early completion of the Kennedy Expressway Rehabilitation Project in the Chicago area and some of the massive amounts of that project, some of the references that you heard there. Hey, while we are mentioning that to our neighbors to the south, let me also say a big next step coming for construction in our area. This is a live look at the current metro traffic in the Milwaukee area, and you see the slowdowns through that construction zone north of the Zoo interchange on I-41 and 45. I-94, though, around the stadium interchange is going to get a whole lot busier for years to come. Our own major interstate rehabilitation project is coming and starting in a matter of days, supposed to happen this weekend, and then going for up to 8 years from now. Part of that, an expansion to 3 lanes for a corridor of 94. It's replacing aging pavement and also trying to expand what has become a very busy corridor in the Milwaukee metro area. So, but in the meantime, we're going to see a lot of those orange barrels that Governor J.B. Pritzker was referencing there. A couple other things I want to mention before we go to a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. This is a live look at the White House on this Friday afternoon, and actually you can see, I believe just off to the left, some of those construction cranes that are taking down the east wing of the White House. Has been a notable development and a bit controversial there in our nation's capital. A few different things that we are tracking, though, on a number of different fronts. First of all, from our neighbors to the north, the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, has said that his province that had sponsored that ad that was running here in the U.S. criticizing the tariffs from the Trump administration against Canadian goods will be taken down. There was a chance we were going to see this actually during Game 1 of the World Series tonight here on Fox, but Ontario Premier Doug Ford says that ad will be taken down now, will not run, after talks with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, saying that the ad had been an effective campaign, reaching the highest levels of the U.S. audience, meaning the President of the United States, who had threatened a number of different trade agreements and canceled talks with Canada over the running of this ad repeatedly. So that's a change there. We'll see what comes in the actual negotiations between the U.S. and Canada. One other thing that is coming as well, let me read this for you. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on Colombia, the South American country of Colombia, leveling penalties from the Treasury Department against the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, as well as his wife, his son, and a member of the administration there, the Interior Minister. The administration, the U.S. administration, is accusing the Colombian government of its involvement in the global drug trade, while others say that is not actually the case. And all of this coming, of course, with the escalation that we mentioned earlier, including the movement of a U.S. aircraft carrier into the Caribbean as escalations against what the administration says are drug boats coming from Venezuela continues as well. And then one other note on this Friday, a lot of news happening in the last few minutes or so. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed Zoran Mamdani for New York City mayor. Hakeem Jeffries, of course, comes from New York, a Democratic representative from New York. The Brooklyn lawmaker, when it comes to Jeffries, said Democrats have a clear obligation to push back against Republican extremism, even as he acknowledged that there are, quote, areas of principled disagreement with the Democratic nominee for mayor, Zoran Mamdani. So that's an interesting update there from Hakeem Jeffries, who, of course, we've heard from most days related to the ongoing government shutdown, now well into its third week. All right, just a few of the updates for you here on this Friday. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break and continue with more. The Wisconsin Live Desk keeps rolling after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Defmo with you here on this Friday. It is 2:31, which means it is 1 minute past my duties here on the Live Desk for this Friday. Sam Kramer standing by just outside the door. So what we'll do is leave you or take you back to that press conference in Illinois right now to handle our handoff, and Sam will be with you after that. We've already heard from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker that was specifically related to this construction project completed in the Chicagoland area. I'm curious if they'll take some questions at the end, whether Governor Pritzker will be asked about a number of other topics, including the ongoing back and forth between Illinois, Chicago, and the Trump administration's use of the National Guard in the Windy City. So we're going to leave this up for you. Sam will be with you right after this. It is a Friday here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
President Ryder, thank you
Thanks for
to
watching.
my colleagues in the House and Senate who make this job so much easier. I am a very pro-labor person, but I will tell you I understand the importance of making sure that workers are put to work. And it is because of our governor, J.B. Pritzker, who continues to stand on the front line, who is bold, who is a visionary, who is unapologetic. And no matter what challenge we are facing, he is always going to stand up for the people here in the state of Illinois. So please give a round of applause again for our governor, who I have the honor of serving with. And then also to my new alderman, Alderman Red Burnett Jr. But no, this is a modernization and rehabilitation project that represents a major, major milestone. This work is part of the state's Rebuild Illinois Capital Program, which continues to build the largest infrastructure investment in Illinois' history. The Kennedy Expressway carries more than a quarter million vehicles every single day and is a crucial link to commuters, families, and businesses across our district and across Illinois. This shows what is possible when state leadership, local governments, and labor partners work together towards a shared goal. This is a win for working families, for small businesses, and every Illinoisan who depends on reliable transportation every single day. This project is far more than a construction project. It's about the daily lives of tens of thousands of Chicagoans, the neighborhood businesses that line the routes, and our region's future for decades to come. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit cold. During the construction, many commuters, local residents, and local businesses have experienced disruptions, detours, and noise. These challenges are real, and Illinois will continue working to ensure transparency, timely updates, and minimal impacts while delivering a result that will last for generations. And again, we finished this project a month early, and I know because I ride the Kennedy. There's plenty of times where I was upset. Can I get an amen? No, I'm just playing. This is an investment that supports community growth through jobs, businesses, and all while improving our community safety. And that means every resident, not only in the 5th Senate District, but across Illinois, should feel this is a win, and not just people driving to work, but for the people who live and work every single day. Thanks to community patience, diligence, and faith, the state leadership can deliver the infrastructure Chicago and Illinois deserve. Again, thank you. And next, I have the pleasure and honor of bringing up my former colleague in the House, but still my colleague, Leader Andrade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I had a speech, but, you know, everyone already said everything and no one wants to hear again. I just want to say that as a chairman of Transportation Vehicle Safety, the highway is not just a place for people just to get to work. Every morning, I actually have a chance to have a conversation with my daughter. That time we're just driving on there, I actually build a relationship with her, with my daughter, just taking her to school. So being safe is important because I take my family, and all of you take your family too. Also, there's cameras on the highway, on the ramps. One of those cameras, and hopefully that was part of the modernization program too, captured the carjacker that put a gun to my constituent right off the highway. Because having in my district the highway, the whole thing, that's one of the reasons people actually carjack by the highway, because exit. But because of IDOT's and the governor's investment in our area, we were able to catch that carjacker because of that camera. So and that's thanks to IDOT. I will be remiss if I don't mention the patience that IDOT employees have had with me when I used to have Old Irving Park in my district, and the number one complaint I had was pigeon poop. Besides traffic sucks, pigeon poop sucks too. I'll tell you that much. That's one of the biggest things, and I want to thank the contractor for putting back all the pigeon abatement at Irving Park Blue Line Station, because that was the biggest concerns my neighbors were having. They're like, Jamie, all that time that they spent, they tore it all out. I said, listen, it's going to come back. Don't worry. So I'm very grateful that we have a governor who's a leader, who built this rebuild project. You know, it was $169 million to repair 36 bridges. I don't remember if some of you remember, some of these bridges were falling apart, and one time one of the pieces fell on a resident, on our constituent driving through the highway. So it's not just that lives are protected. We also have Scott's Law to protect our workers, my fellow union members. As a member of Local 2 Stagehands, there's nothing prouder that I am now also a union member. So I want to thank you guys for all the work that you do. And here, I use the highway all the time because after this, I'm on my way to O'Hare to work at the Hyatt over there with my other job. So remember, for the public out there, please drive safely and watch out for our workers. Scott's Law, there's a purpose for that. So, thank you very much. And now we have Alderman Burnett. And I work with your father a lot, and I'm very proud to have you come after me, and for younger people to come and lead us now into the future too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Hello, everyone. My name is Walter Redmond Burnett, Alderman of the 27th Ward, and I want to welcome you to the 27th Ward. Thank you to Governor Pritzker, to Secretary Gia, to Bob Ryder and the Federation of Labor, to Senator Villarreal, Senator Collins, my state senator, and appreciate all that you do. This is a huge project and a huge partnership for the state of Illinois and for Chicago. The Department of Transportation, both at a state level and at a city level, created a lot of great work in order to get this project done. The Kennedy Expressway is the road that moves people forward. It's a vital artery that keeps people coming to Chicago every day, and especially to the 27th Ward, where people should come more. It really does connect our neighborhoods, and a lot of Chicago was built on the infrastructure in the 20th century, and it's time that we have modernization and repair to some of these critical roads and bridges throughout the entire city. So I really want to give a thanks to Governor Pritzker for making sure that our state highways, bridges, and roads are continuously being redeveloped so that we can continue to build a better future for Chicagoans who want to call this place home. And so to the laborers, I appreciate you all for all the work that you do. It takes a really skilled labor force in order to get this project done, and to get it done early is no small feat. So you all are really the backbone of what keeps Chicago going forward. And again, thank you to everyone who have decided to come here and celebrate with us in the 27th Ward. I will now invite Governor Pritzker back up to give his questions and answers.
Thank you. Happy to take questions. Dan Petrella. Well, I think, for years, actually, the Illinois State Board of Education has worked with schools to help them prepare for these kinds of things. That's the attack, I'll use that word, by ICE or the federal government coming into schools. Schools now are prepared for soft lockdowns. They know how to prevent kids from being taken out of schools. And then you've seen lots of neighborhood programs that have developed to support the parents also. So, those are all things that are in effect. We're supporting the organizations at the local level, as you know, that are warning people when things are happening in their communities. And so that entire system that's been put together is one that the state continues to support. So we think that's the best way to go. Remember, very importantly, I think one thing we learned during COVID is that remote learning really has a deleterious effect on kids' ability to get the kind of education that they need. And so we want to do everything we can to keep kids in school where they are safer, frankly, than when they're wandering around in the community. And so that's what we're focused on, is making sure they get the best education possible, and that's really done in the classroom. Yeah, again, we're supporting a lot of local organizations that are doing, in fact, that work. What we don't want to do is have, for example, police officers taken off the beat to protect people from violent crime or to go after the bad guys when we can actually rely on communities. And I think you've seen this at our houses of worship, at our schools. People are gathering in communities. The number of whistles that have been sold to people who are walking around and ready to blow the whistle when they see something bad happening in the community because there's a federal agent wandering around stopping people because their skin is brown or black. The number of people that are trying to protect and do their, I think, civic duty has grown exponentially, and I'm really proud of that and proud of the people of Chicago and the entire region. Yes, sir.
I got a question for you and a follow-up to the Secretary, if I could. I should admit on this story, I'm totally biased because I drive...
Okay, hi everybody. Sam Kramer here checking in on Hour 3 of the Wisconsin Live Desk. You've been listening to this press conference with Illinois officials, including Governor J.B. Pritzker there, who's now taking questions on things unrelated to the Kennedy Expressway Rehabilitation Project, but ask you to mention a lot to talk about politically, given the operations that are happening in Chicago and just the media tour he has done in the last few days, even the last 24 hours, considering perhaps a run for president. We're going to take a break here on Hour 3 of the Wisconsin Live Desk. When we return, we're going to tell you about an exciting event happening this weekend in Burlington. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi everybody, Sam Kramer back with you on Hour 3 of the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Friday, October 24th. So glad that you are with us here on Fox Local, as we are just keeping an eye on things that are happening both locally, nationally, and internationally. There's a lot of news going on today, both locally as Milwaukee County leaders have been sounding off on the fact that the state's request for assistance from FEMA related to the historic flooding back in August was denied by the White House. So we'll look forward to that in a little bit. But look, it's Friday. The weekend is on tap. And I thought we might want to talk about a fun event happening this weekend in Burlington. And joining us to talk about that today is Shad Brannon. He is the organizer of Spooky City 2025, has been the organizer from the inception, from what I hear. Shad, thanks for joining the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sam. Little lighter subject here, right?
Exactly. And we got to tell people what's going on. You've organized this event for, I believe, 36 years? Can you take us back 36 years?
Yeah, I'm only 23.
Yeah, don't know how you did it, but hey, I salute to you. But take us back to the beginning. Why start this event, and why did Burlington need something like this?
Well, I'll give credit to my mother-in-law. She had seen a similar event of downtown trick-or-treating in Minnesota area. And so we thought that would be a perfect opportunity. And you know, the focus on Halloween has just grown over the years. So we've been able to ride that wave.
And I'm just imagining it has grown exponentially from that first year. I mean, what do you remember? What stands out about that first year to you've put in the planning? What's it going to look like this year?
Well, it focuses around downtown trick-or-treating. And so obviously the number of businesses and everybody, the community getting involved has just grown over the years. So that has been the mainstay, the trick-or-treating. So we have a majority of the downtown businesses handing out treats to kids. And in fact, we calculate it's about 60,000 pieces of candy within 60 minutes. So this is a sweet tooth, haven here. And Nestle's, who has a town, also hands out fresh baked cookies. So they have several thousands of those to hand out too.
Yeah, you know the smell if you've ever driven through Burlington at the right time of day. You certainly are aware of that. I understand you guys have street entertainers and hay rides as well. So it's really just kind of this widespread autumn experience.
Yeah, that's grown too, where now we block off all the streets downtown. That didn't happen in the early years, but now everything is blocked off downtown. So that gives us the opportunity to fill the streets with a lot of other entertainment. So as you're trick-or-treating from business to business, we have a variety of street performers. We vary that every year. This year there's a hula hoop performer with fire. There's jugglers going on. There's electric violinists playing Halloween music. There's Krampus creatures from Milwaukee that come and join us. There's just a whole variety of street entertainment, even pumpkin bowling, and you name it. we fill the streets with it. So it's real entertaining as you're walking up and down the streets trick-or-treating.
No doubt. It really takes over downtown. It becomes this festival, so to speak. I think the one thing that people may be aware of, if they are thinking, Spooky City, I'm not sure I know about that, they've probably heard of the coffin races. For people that haven't, how would you describe it to people that are no doubt using their imagination now thinking, what in the heck is a coffin race?
Well, yeah, that started just a handful of years ago, and it's teams of 4 people that will compete by running a coffin, all decorated up, and they are too, and they will run down a raceway down Pine Street, our main street in town. There are obstacles along the way, little games they have to compete, and so they are competing for $1,500 in prize money. So they take it pretty seriously. Wow. And so it's just such a fun event to watch.
So we're looking at the map now, and it really does take over Milwaukee, Chestnut, Pine Street as well. And again, the coffin races, it should sound attention-grabbing because it is attention-grabbing. You often don't see coffins moving like this or decorated.
No, it's even sponsored by the local funeral home. Get that.
That is incredible branding right there. And a $1,500 prize certainly puts a lot on the stage there. What keeps you guys coming back, Shad, year after year to keep bringing this to downtown Burlington?
It's such a fun activity, and to see the community come together like this. So it makes it all worthwhile from an organization standpoint. But the focus of it is to make people more aware of the businesses that are downtown. So it brings thousands. We have literally thousands of people that come every year. And so they're just experiencing downtown, seeing the many businesses and services that are here. So we want the businesses to reap the rewards of this too.
And they should. 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. I was looking at some of the details here online, which we'll put on our website as well, fox6now.com. 60,000 pieces of candy in an hour. I don't know how you got the metrics for it, but I tip my cap to you. I mean, that just sounds like a wonderful time. And again, this isn't just for people that live in Burlington. You want people to come explore what downtown Burlington's about.
Oh, no, please do. That's the point of it, to make people experience Burlington. So yeah, we invite everybody to come join us, whether it's trick-or-treating, the coffin race. Trick-or-treating is 11 a.m. to noon. Coffin races kick off at noon. They'll run until about 1:30. And then there's a Day of the Dead celebration with dancing horses, all sorts of other activities, live music into the evening. So things wrap up about 7 o'clock. But yeah, please come join us, including you, Sam.
I would actually if I didn't have to work, and I'll be here. But I'm gonna see if we can get somebody there and maybe bring back some of those pieces of candy that you guys have. Certainly bring a sweet treat for everybody. All right, he's Shad Brandon, the organizer behind Spooky City 2025 in downtown Burlington. Shad, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So there you go. How about that? Something for everybody in downtown Burlington. As you just heard, they're trying to bring people downtown, interact with the businesses. And there's a lot going on this weekend. There's a Fill the Boot, that will be a fundraiser for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. They've got hay rides, touch a truck, costume parade, trick-or-treating at the downtown businesses, a coffin parade, and coffin races. Again, our cameras have been there for that, and when you see it, you're like, what the heck is happening here? But it's captivating, and it brings people together, and then an adult spirit walk as well. So all day tomorrow, October 25th in downtown Burlington from 8 until 7. Everything doesn't go across that entire schedule. It's all broken up into pieces, but really something for everyone there happening in Burlington, this Spooky City 2025. So as we told you when we just came back here on the third hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk on this Friday, October 24th, there's a lot going on today. In Milwaukee specifically, we're looking at Milwaukee County leaders and city leaders are actually sounding the alarm after FEMA and the Trump administration denied a disaster declaration request from the state of Wisconsin due to the historic flooding that we saw in August. By now, you've seen the pictures, you've seen the video, and many of you have seen the damage in your own homes, in your own cars, in your neighborhoods, that sort of thing. The state, clearly, in its municipalities, were counting on the federal government to provide some money that would then, in turn, help with things like road repair, infrastructure repair, rebuilding, that sort of thing. I can remember the sinkholes from Menominee Falls and Milwaukee and streets overrun. And look, we all saw the debris, we saw the coming together. But again, county and city leaders were relying upon some funding that was that they expected to be coming from the White House, but they learned this afternoon that FEMA has since denied that request. And County Executive David Crowley, as we listened to here a little bit earlier on the Wisconsin Live Desk, just sharing the disappointment, and it comes at a time when the county and the city are both debating their budgets, so they have to, perhaps shift around some dollars to cover and help pay for those losses they thought were going to be able to cover somewhere else. And so that will be certainly a developing story that we will continue watching. We've reached out to FEMA on that. Our reporter Ashley Sears got an automatic email response back saying that because of the shutdown, they might not get an answer right away. However, again, the county leaders and the city leaders are absolutely sounding the alarm. Looking here in my email for a statement from Mayor Cavalier Johnson. Here we go. I'm going to ask my producer Delaney, do we have the graphics made for that yet? Let's pull those up if you don't mind. This is a statement from Mayor Cavalier Johnson. Again, in response to the denial of public assistance disaster funds, the mayor says, quote, obviously, we are disappointed with the decision to leave local governments on their own to deal with the consequences of August's devastating flood. In a time when local government budgets are extremely tight, Milwaukee could certainly have deployed disaster funding in a way that mitigated the burden our taxpayers will have to shoulder. Milwaukee households and businesses have received federal aid, but that was only part of the costly effects of this disaster. We had hoped the federal government would choose to extend this additional assistance. I understand Governor Tony Evers intends to appeal this decision, and he has my full support. in that effort. So let's be clear. Some people, individuals, homeowners, property owners, have been able to apply and receive some direct funding. Our political reporter Jason Calvi has detailed a number of those stories in which people went to these temporary disaster assistance centers. They sat down with members of FEMA that were here to talk about their specific losses, what they might qualify for. There's a pool of money that U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and others helped to secure from the Trump administration and the White House to then be able to help these people get back on their feet. I'm thinking about, look, it's not just getting the water out, it's dealing with mold and other cleanup. It's replacing waterlogged and damaged items. In some cases, it's finding new housing. I can remember video near the State Fair where so many people had standing water in their cars. They come back out where their cars are out on the track. They open the door and all this water comes flooding out. Well, that's damage, and that's something that they can pursue assistance on as well, but not specifically, at least I do not believe specifically federal for that. But nevertheless, widespread damage. And so yes, the federal government has provided millions of dollars already to individuals, but the state making that request specifically for more of its municipalities and the damage they suffered in terms of road damage and otherwise is denied today. And so, again, as the mayor pointed out in his statement, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers does intend to appeal this decision. Tough to see where that appeal goes, but certainly is something that we will follow both right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk and, of course, on Fox 6 News. We're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. When we return, another look at what's happening today in our area. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi everybody, Sam Kramer checking back in with you on this Friday, October 24th. It is 3 o'clock. We got a half hour left here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So glad you're with us right here on Fox Local. Okay, we got to talk about it. I don't really want to talk about it, but we do have to talk about it. What are we talking about? The World Series that, of course, does not feature the Milwaukee Brewers. 4 hours from now, it's Game 1 of the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have home field advantage in this best-of-7 series. The two teams are going to be playing at Rogers Center tonight in Toronto. Again, the Dodgers reigning champions, kind of struggled during the regular season, but boy, have they found it, as we certainly know all too well, from the NLCS against the Brewers. And now, actually, some Blue Jays are talking to the media. Let's take a listen in to that.
And I feel good enough to produce, and so I mean that's all that matters to me.
I assume your mother and father are going to be here too?
They will be, yeah.
Standing in the back left. Oh, Jake.
When you think back to New Hampshire, 2018, you and Vlad and Schneider, what are the feelings that go through your head?
A long road. It was, it's something that we all talked about, getting to this point, having an opportunity to win a World Series from the moment we met each other. So, we've had our ups and downs, and we've had high points and low points, and to get to this point and have the opportunity to, chase a dream is special, and it makes it more special to do it with them.
And then what has changed about Schneider over the years?
Well, I think he's always had a gift of being a manager. I think, he creates good relationship with the players. I think the thing that he has taken the biggest step forward in this year is really trusting everybody on the roster. I think it's easy to trust Vladdy, obviously, but every single person who stepped in the clubhouse this year, I feel he's given an opportunity to, and not only trusted to produce, but expected to produce. And, I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons we're here.
Third row on your left, Bo.
Hey, bro. How will all of this, any of this, influence your thinking as a free agent?
I've been here my entire career. Worked really hard to build a winning culture. Not alone, of course, with some people that are really close to me. So, I've said it before. My goal is to stay here for my entire career. But right now, I don't have time to think about that. It's I got to go out there and do everything I can to help the team win.
One row ahead.
Bo, you were introduced pregame in the other series to start the series, but you're going to be able to run out on the field with your teammates. How are you going to take that all in tonight?
Yeah, I'll do my best to enjoy it. I'm not going to lie, I've thought about it. Seeing how excited the fan base is and the love they have for everybody, I've definitely thought about that. So it'll be a special moment.
Fourth row on your right, Bo. Mike.
Hey, Bo, several of your teammates over the course of the last couple months have said that it was your home run in Texas that turned the season around. That pinch hit, 2-run shot in the ninth inning. Do you look back on that? Did you feel at the time like it was as big as it was going to be? And in retrospect now, do you see that as well?
Yeah, I don't know. If they say that it had a big part in it, then, maybe it did. I think there's so many different scenarios that you could look to throughout the season, big moments, big hits, that had a huge part in us maybe getting out of a rut or continuing a hot streak or whatever it is. So I think for me personally it was a big moment, but I'm not sure if that's a pinpoint you could point to on our season turning around.
And after Game 7, I was talking to Kevin Gosman, and he said of all the Blue Jays teams that he's been on, which is only a couple more than you, this is the one that he thinks he sort of expected the least from starting the season, and he's surprised that this is the one that got to the World Series. How do you think about that, about this team relative to like the 21-2-3 teams that you were on?
I've played on some incredibly talented teams, and this is no different. This is a very talented team with a lot of great players. I would say the difference is we're just a team in every sense of the word. The way we play the game, the way we love on each other, want the best for each other, play for each other. So, I think that's the biggest difference, and probably being around this group has been the biggest lesson for me in my career, and looking around and understanding that this is what a team is, and this is what we should be striving to create every single season.
Couple last ones, second row on your right.
Hey, Bo, you guys have faced a lot of top-end starters this year and fared pretty well at times, including in the playoffs. What do you think it is about this offense that allows you guys to have success against some of the top starters in baseball?
I think the compete level, never giving in, competing with 2 strikes is huge. I think we do that obviously very well. And like I said, we have a ton of talent, a lot of guys that have done some really cool things in this game, and we'll definitely lean on those guys this series. But yeah, I think just the ability to compete, never give in, I think that does wonders for any team.
Last row on your left, Bo. Shy.
Hey, Bo. Every team in baseball talks about trying to create the type of team dynamic that you guys have spoken about all season long. As you think back at some of the ways you managed to create that bond, is there anything you can pull from that to try and do this again next year? Like, are lessons that you can draw of, like, this is how you put it together to create what you guys have had this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of guys in that locker room that have the resume to have egos, want to be the hero, all of that kind of stuff. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think as long as your best players are down to do whatever it takes to win, and there's no ego behind that, I don't see any reason that can't be created again.
1 or 2 last ones for Bo. All right, Bo, congratulations on making the World Series. Great to see you.
All right, guys, thank you.
Okay, that was Bo Bichette, the Toronto Blue Jays infielder, who has not played since September 6th because of a sprained knee. It was a bit of a surprise a couple hours ago when the Blue Jays named him to their World Series roster. They have to declare that 26-man roster before any of the games are played. That's a bit of a chess match, so to speak, between the managers. They can only replace a player if that player is injured, and if that player leaves the roster because they're injured, they cannot return. So Bo Bichette, who normally plays shortstop there for the Toronto Blue Jays, is going to be starting, hitting cleanup, playing second base. So that's a bit of a inside baseball, so to speak, but nevertheless, a bit of a surprise. Curious if you guys at home feel the same way as I do. It's on Fox. Okay, we're going to watch it because we work here at Fox 6. But boy, know what the feeling would be locally and really across the state if the Brewers had, in fact, made it to the World Series. So something we'll be watching there. I believe the Dodgers are certainly the betting favorites over the Toronto Blue Jays, but we will see. Again, the Blue Jays do have the home field advantage in the World Series, which does begin tonight on Fox. All 7 games, if the series does go that long, will be on Fox. First pitch tonight is at 7, which I do believes that at least our 9 o'clock news will be right here on Fox Local as we wait for that game to end on broadcast. All right, we're going to take a quick break on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and when we return, take a look at what else is happening in our area today, take a look at the weekend forecast, and of course a different sports game that I think a lot of us are going to be paying attention to when we return. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi everybody, Sam Kramer back with you here on Hour 3 of the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Friday, October 24th, now 3:12, as we've got about 18 minutes left with you here again on Hour 3 of the Wisconsin Live Desk. We have some breaking news just into our newsroom about a story that we had done as part of Wisconsin's Most Wanted, the series that Ashley Sears has done in connection with the U.S. Marshals Service. And the U.S. Marshals tell us that they have arrested the man you see there on your screen, Armando Barragan, who had been on the run for 20 years. He was arrested in assistance with the U.S. Marshals Mexico Foreign Field Office, as well as the Monterey Consulate General Office, and local Mexican authorities. They found him and arrested him after a short chase. Looks like they chased after him on foot in the city of Garcia Nuevo Leon in Mexico. He had been on the run again since 2005. As our Ashley Sears reported as part of Wisconsin's Most Wanted, Barragan was federally indicted in the U.S. Eastern District of Wisconsin. So that's federal court on charges including racketeering, as well as, let's see here, other charges. This was a result of a long-term investigation, the marshals say, into the Latin King street gang led by the FBI's Milwaukee office, which led in total to the indictment of 49 members of that Latin King gang. He's one of the lead defendants in federal RICO prosecution. So again, that's racketeering. They say he's been directly linked to and involved in a murder in the city of Milwaukee. They issued that federal arrest warrant back in 2005 to locate, arrest him, and bring him to justice. Again, his story featured on Wisconsin's Most Wanted, a series that has helped law enforcement, federal law enforcement, find people charged and accused of crimes and bring them back to court to face their day in court and let the justice process begin. We have a statement here from the U.S. Marshal for the Eastern District of Wisconsin, Anna Rosinski, who says, quote, "This shows the tenacity and commitment of our Violent Offender Task Force in searching for and finding violent fugitives to bring them to justice." She goes on to say, "The persistent work of the deputy U.S. Marshals throughout the years has finally brought this case to a safe conclusion by the arrest of this violent gang member who terrorized the city of Milwaukee for so long." As you're seeing part of that statement there. Again, the Violent Offender Task Force in searching for and finding violent fugitives and bringing them to justice. I'm just searching here quickly at the story our Ashley Sears did. Armando Barragan is accused of killing an innocent person at a Cudahy gas station more than 20 years ago. He was rising through the ranks of this gang, the Latin Kings, living a life of crime. By 16 years old, investigators say he ordered the execution of a man at that Cudahy gas station. Barragan was fighting with a rival gang member, and someone stepped in to stop it, and that's when that shooting happened. So they had said, as they tell us basically every time in these Wisconsin Most Wanted stories, they want you to turn yourself in. They have all this information. They list out, the wanted subjects' height, weight, their tattoos, basically everything they know about them. And they believed, as I see here, they had believed that he was in a Mexican border town. And so, not sure why it took 20 years, but nevertheless, Ashley Sears did this story back on August 10th. 2025, and again, the U.S. Marshals now telling Fox 6 that they have located Armando Barragan, a former subject of Wisconsin's Most Wanted, in a border town in Mexico. I should say just in Mexico. They believed he was in a border town. Here's that full statement again from Anna Rosinski, who is the U.S. Marshal for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. Says, quote, "This shows the tenacity and commitment of our Violent Offender Task Force in searching for and finding violent fugitives to bring them to justice. The persistent work of the deputy U.S. Marshals throughout the years has finally brought this case to a safe conclusion by the arrest of this violent gang member who terrorized the city of Milwaukee for so long." So you would think that he would then be extradited back to Milwaukee to face those federal charges at the federal courthouse. I'm sure Ashley Sears will stay on top of that story for us as well. Okay, so as we come back here, the Wisconsin Live Desk, another story that we are going to be paying attention to, no doubt, all weekend long. As it finally leads to Sunday Night Football, there is the return, I should say, sort of return, of Aaron Rodgers, who now is the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the Green Bay Packers are flying today and headed there, if not today, perhaps tomorrow, to take on the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. It feels like a game that probably should be played at Lambeau Field. Instead, it's going to be played right here at Acrisure Stadium, I believe it is, in Pittsburgh. It used to be Heinz Field. But yeah, there's a look, live look now, thanks to our Weather Vision camera, over downtown Pittsburgh. I got to tell you, tip of the cap to Pittsburgh, who puts all their stadiums downtown. Have the excellent view of the bridge there and the downtown skyline. Looks like it's cloudy. Maybe some storm clouds rolling in there, but boy, it is going to be a massive game. The storylines, you really can't draw them up much better than this. Although Rodgers himself kind of took out the wind of the sails of those thinking that this might be a revenge game for him, wanting to necessarily get back at the Packers for moving on from him and moving toward Jordan Love, who's been the starter now for a handful of years. But Rodgers earlier this week said, you know what, I've got nothing but love for Green Bay. I have what I have because of the Green Bay Packers. Remember, he did win a Super Bowl here, several MVPs, and certainly signed so many contracts that make him hundreds of millions of dollars. Again, kind of went with some disdain on both sides as he was sent away via trade to the New York Jets. That didn't work for a couple of years. He ends up in Pittsburgh, and again, the Packers just kind of keep marching on. So this will be the first time in Aaron Rodgers' storied career that he will be looking across the sideline and seeing the green and gold on the other team instead of his team as well. And if you're particularly inclined on the uniforms of this game, the historical jerseys of the NFL, the Packers no doubt have one that is historic. With the green and the gold, it really hardly ever changes except for certain occasions. The Pittsburgh Steelers kind of in that ballpark as well. They have their classic helmet with a logo on just one side, and their black and gold. But for this game, the Steelers have chosen to wear this alternate gold helmet, which is interesting considering it's the Packers that are coming to town. So the Packers made a change earlier in the week. They're going to wear those all-white uniforms that they wore earlier this season at home against the Washington Commanders. So if you care about uniforms and all of the chess pieces, so to speak, in the matchup, there you go. Now you know. And that is why we have the Wisconsin Live Desk, no doubt about that. All right, so let's see what else is going on in our area. I think as we're looking toward the weekend, let's take a look at the weather, at least what that's going to look like. Our weather experts dial this one up for us. We got Holly Baker in the weather office tonight. She is working on her forecasts, but today, pretty nice. 52, sunny, and although it does get down to 32, we warm up over the next couple of days. Saturday, 54, couple of showers, and dancing mummy there. Yeah, mummy perhaps is trick-or-treating for a lot of places. Happening this weekend, sunny, 58 degrees, mostly cloudy, but still some sun on Sunday, the low of 44. If you've gone trick-or-treating enough in this area, you know a lot of times the costume has to be sacrificed at the very end because it's a little bit too chilly, and the kiddos have to wear a jacket to cover up just to stay warm and go after the pieces of candy. Might be able to avoid that this year, perhaps if your city, village, town is doing it early enough. We know in the city of Milwaukee, they're actually looking to do it. They changed it up this year. They're actually going to do it on Halloween, that's Friday night of next week. So a little early to see that, but certainly as we look toward the latter of these 6 days, not looking so hot for that. 52, windy with a chance of afternoon rain on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, high of 50 with a chance of showers. Again, I suppose it is that time of year. Nevertheless, yeah, that's looking to be a little bit chilly. Okay, let's take one more break right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. When we return, we will put a bow on the day, at least on the afternoon. The day itself, it is far from over. We got plenty of newscasts coming up on our broadcast side that, of course, you can see right here on Fox Local as well. Stay with us. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi there, everybody. Sam Kramer back with you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Friday, October 24th. Hope you are having a great start to the weekend. It seems like it's been good weather outside. I know I was certainly enjoying it with my dogs out in the backyard who were thinking, you know what? It's nice to have some sunshine, a little bit of warmth as my dogs enjoyed the laying out in the backyard. We just covered the forecast for you. It looks like it's going to be a relatively good weekend, at least for late October, and there are a number of things happening this weekend. Trick-or-treat events, the Packers and Steelers on Sunday. I believe the Badgers are back in action this weekend, and just so many things to look forward to for that. Before we leave you, though, we're going to actually check back in on some breaking news that we just got into the FOX6 newsroom from the Milwaukee Police Department, who tell us that they have arrested a man who is accused in 2 separate shootings that killed 3 people, both this last weekend, and they're actually fairly close to each other. The Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office tells us that it has issued criminal charges against Michael Williams, and we have his photo. There it is right there. So Milwaukee police say he is the suspect in a pair of homicide investigations that happened on Sunday, October 19th. And they're actually just blocks apart, actually not even a half mile from each other. The first was near 27th, or was on 27th Street between Roosevelt and Atkinson, where police say that he is accused of killing 2 people. The second is, again, just a half mile away, 31st and Glendale, between, that's just right near, just off Atkinson. So again, not sure of the exact details on that. I'm actually going to take a quick search of our website here to see what we had on those incidents. Again, to be happening a half mile away seems really close to each other. Not sure of the timing of those yet, but nevertheless, Milwaukee police tell us that Michael Williams, the man on the screen there, was arrested, and he is charged with 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. All of those counts carry with them a mandatory sentence of life in prison. The only thing the judge could determine, if there is a conviction, is whether or not to offer him extended supervision. In the state of Wisconsin, that is the equivalent of parole. So that is something that we, our reporters, will certainly be working on tonight as well. So let's just recap here. The big story, at least, that the state is watching is the fact that federal government declined the state of Wisconsin's request for disaster relief. This is in connection to the historic flooding that so many of us saw and dealt with, or had friends and family and neighbors deal with. The state is appealing that decision, hoping to unlock some federal money to help municipalities deal with the heavy cost of all of the damage and destruction that historic flooding brought. So we have Ashley Sears working on that story. Again, we just found out that a Milwaukee Police Department arrested, and the DA's office has charged a suspect with 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide for 3 people that were killed on Sunday. We'll be following up on that as well. And then big story again. Some areas will be celebrating trick-or-treat and Halloween this weekend. Others will not. We'll take one last look at the forecast here. It's going to be a good weekend for the most part. 52 today, 54 tomorrow, 58 on Sunday. So if your neighborhood, if your town is going to be one of those spots that is out trick-or-treating, seems like it's going to be a good weekend, particularly if you're one of those that starts rather early, thinking like between 2 and 4. If your little one is worried about the costume, maybe get out on the early end there so they don't have to wear a jacket and that sort of thing. As we leave you, let's take another look at downtown Pittsburgh. This will be the scene Sunday night where the Green Bay Packers will travel into town, and for the first time they will see Aaron Rodgers listed as starting quarterback on the team opposing them. It's going to be a big game. Tim Van Vorn will be there with live coverage all weekend long for us on Fox 6. Thanks so much for watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. Have a great weekend.
All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. It's the United States against Canada. It's Los Angeles against Toronto. It's the reigning World Series champ against an underdog of unlikely fortunes. A live look there in Toronto at Rogers Center. Game 1 of the World Series, the Fall Classic, beginning at 8 o'clock Eastern right here on Fox. Let's be joined right now from the field, Fox's Sarah Allegre. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Obviously, so much excitement around this series. Set the scene. What's the vibe on the field?